and welcome back to the Hood Report, episode 12. Sitting with me today, as usual, we got Leif from Church. Leif, how you doing?
Doing well. Good evening.
Good evening. I don't know if I said good morning. We're doing an evening episode today. Also sitting with us, we have none other than Mike Pugh. Mike, how you doing?
Pugh.
Pugh. Thank
like
you. Mike Pugh.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Nice to meet you. This is the first time we've hung out before, so
yep.
Yeah, happy to have you in. Welcome to BDK.
Thank you.
And what's the spelling on your name?
P-U-G-H.
Okay.
Like Hugh. But growing up, like first day of school, it was always like Mike Pugh. Mike Pugh. You know what I mean? I was like, no, it's Pugh.
Yeah, you're
like
sitting
I
there
smell.
waiting to correct the teacher.
Yeah. But yeah.
Is that French? Where?
Crust, I don't know.
Oh, there we go. Nice crust. Well, thank you. Drove all the way over from Bend, east of Bend. So thank you, man. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Excited to have you in. But we'll start off appropriately here. Let's do a quick boarding check-in. Leif, how's the boarding been for you lately?
It's been good. I've been working at Mount Hood Summer Ski Camp, filming and riding the last couple weeks since the last episode, and then just skateboarding in the evening. And, yep, been good.
Seeing you get some clips up there, it looks like you guys had some good campers. Was it session 2?
I think that was our 4th session last week because we go since the first week of June.
Okay. How many sessions do you have through the summer?
Oh, man, I think there's 12 or so. So we go until Timberline closes. So as long as they have a park, we'll have some freestyle filming and coaching going on.
Nice. Is that the camp with the most sessions?
I think so. Okay. Yeah, we run the whole summer.
Yeah.
So it's real diehards.
There you go. How about you, Mike? How's the boarding been? I know we were talking before we started rolling here.
Winter-wise, it was really good. But the boarding for me, unfortunately, is not doing too good because I got a hernia trying to dig out the pool. Mm-hmm. I'm 57 years old. I fall down these days, it hurts. And, I'm in the process of trying to get that taken care of. But unfortunately for me, it's probably wise because I know my limits and, taking it easy or slowing down on a skateboard's never been my forte. And at this age, I just can't do it. But I'm there to drink beer and I'm there to barbecue for everybody. And the sessions have been great.
Following the social, it looks like you guys have been having a good time.
They've been coming out 2 or 3 times a week and, we're spreading the word and it's great. And, hopefully they're saying July 29th and it's like a 3-week recovery. So, it's good. Winter-wise, before I got that, I got a lot of powder days. I had a good time.
Sick. Riding Mount Bachelor?
Yeah.
Nice. We didn't make it over to Bachelor this year. Did you make it to Bachelor?
I didn't make it to Bachelor this year, unfortunately. So is that your home mountain? These days?
It is these days.
Okay.
It's kind of funny. I grew up in Corvallis, and I used to I used to ski hoodoo with my dad. Okay. So I grew up at hoodoo. So I went to hoodoo a couple times for the night skiing. You know what I mean? I just love that mountain. But Bachelor is, I got a full season pass there this winter, and I really didn't use it on the weekends, but at least I didn't have to buy a ticket for the Derby or the Big Wave Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
What's the deal with are the locals buying Bachelor? Is that what?
You know what? It's kind of hit and miss. They were going to, and then they decided not to, and then the corporation says, we're not going to sell it right now. So, I was following that for a while, and I was hoping that they would because, it's like, seeing it on the news every day. I like to watch the news every night. It seemed like a bunch of good people, screw these corporations or not really screw these corporations, but let's make it family oriented, get it back to the roots.
It seems like an experiment that hasn't really happened before in the US.
Right now it's like the owners just kind of like, I don't know if they took sides. They just said, no, we're going to freeze off right now. So I guess it's not up for sale. I mean, okay, I've been known to be wrong about it.
From riding it standpoint and perspective, it's the same as it's always been.
Other than it just gets more crowded every year. Yeah. It's still, and they've extended some more chairs and stuff. But I didn't really ride it for 20 plus years. And I kind of got lost a lot of the times last year. My first year out there again, I'm like, dude, where am I going? How do I get back to the Sunrise Lodge? It's all still there with a little bit more extension on both sides. And then they opened up, if the weather permits, the top 360, which is just phenomenal.
So insane. Do the clips you see of the kids jumping off the cornice up there?
Oh my God. Yeah. JMO's Gap that went over the rocks. It's just
insane.
I think I hit that thing once and I said, screw this. And that was like 96. I was like, just phobia just going over those rocks, even though I know I'm not going to hit those rocks. It's like, but these kids these days are just killing it up there.
Yeah, people say Bachelor's flat, but it's like you can haul ass at Bachelor.
Yeah, that's
it's wide open.
Flatchler, and it's funny that you say that because I remember I lived up there and I rode for 4 years, and I can remember counting the crew on like both hands. You know what I mean? And yeah, we used to bitch about the weekends, you know, like, but I usually worked in the bar on the weekends, but like. You know, it's like, dude, a Monday on a powder day up there is way worse than any weekend back then, you know what I mean? And like, you know, we got stuck a little bit, but it wasn't that bad. But yeah, you know, after a while it did stick because you're so pumped and you're like, I'm getting stuck. But with these,
yeah, it's true. When the slush hits and like,
but you know,
up,
with all these
pretty
all these new snowboards they have, you know, they're like where they widen them so the running surfaces is still like a 161 or a 169, but it's a 153. You know, like I had an Orca for a while. I just sold it unfortunately, but it was a 153 Orca, and I rode that thing last season all over the place and never got stuck. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you have the right board now, it's not Flatchler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I was
not Flatchler
riding
anymore.
Like a tiny board that was just like jibbed to shit that like just, you know, the base was blown out on it and everything.
Who was any shout outs for riders at Bachelor this year that you liked?
Yeah. Well, we'll get into it, but I want to shout out to Ashley Thornton. I want to shout out to Forrest DeVore. I want to shout out to Chauncey Sorensen. I want to shout out to Shane Landit. You know, obviously Josh Dirksen, Chris Cizek, you know, the Ferguson brothers, what are those guys? Gabe and his brother.
Oh, Ben.
Gabe and
Ben.
Yeah.
You know, like the
insane. There's so much talent up there.
Is that their names?
Gus and Max.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, you know, and there's a bunch of people I'm missing, and you know, like I see him here and there. Shout out to Travis Rice. He's kind of like undercover, but lives in Bend now.
Really?
Got to see him a couple times.
Okay.
You know what I mean? He's a super cool guy. It's like. But, you know, obviously he's Travis Rice, so he kind of tries to be like the white unicorn or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you don't really see him, but you do
People
see
would
him.
probably fan out over Travis Rice, right?
Yeah, but like, you know, there's so many people I'm missing. Just shout out to anybody who wants to go up there and have a fun time on a powder day.
So the scene at Bachelor's good these days.
It is.
Cool.
It is.
We'll have to make it over.
And we had a great powder winter.
Okay, you got a lot of powder this year?
Yes, we did.
Dope.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you while we're on the board and check-in is you had some people over skating the other day, and I saw there was someone who was over the age of 65 coping in the deep end.
Yes,
that's fucking gnarly.
Glad you,
Life goals.
Scott Downey, OG snowboarder.
Okay.
He in the 70s was the Pepsi Cola used to have a skateboarding team in the 70s. They do demos and stuff, and he was part of that.
Okay, yeah.
With some like Stacy Peralta was on the Pepsi team and stuff like that. He, I think, was the very first guy. He's a little older because he was like a full-on skater in the 70s. That year I moved to Mount Bachelor, like Scott Downey, and he had his own professional Sorel snowboard boot, signature boot.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And, you know, like, he's like 9 years older than everybody else. And like, you know, he did really well. He was actually some of the original coach the first 3 or 4 seasons at High Cascade before they really gained traction.
Oh, sick.
But he's always been a good friend of mine. And, you know, like, he showed up. Like, you know, like, I hadn't seen him in a long time. Like I said, I haven't seen a lot of people in a long time. And that's another story. But, you know, I saw him at the 25th anniversary snowboard camp celebration, and he's like, I'm skating still, and yada, yada, yada. Let's keep in touch. And then I have a buddy, Johnny Glue, that has a thrashing party in Auburn where he used to. His place got bulldozed, and he sold it. But I saw Scott there, and he finally was like, I'm going to go on this trip. I got this, like, huge van all equipped. I'm going to go to, like, Colorado and Montana and skate for, like, 6 weeks. I want to stop by your house. I live in Eugene. I mean, he's a hero of mine, and, you know, like, he's legendary. And I didn't even know he was 66 until he said, I'm 66. And, like, the dude, like, didn't, like, I was like, well, you can, you know,
He was touching
you can get in the flat bottom and push if you
want.
want to, you know, not that, like, I was saying he couldn't do it. I try to tell a lot of people that, you know, it's gnarly, but it's not gnarly. But, like, you know, if you got a phobia, your sight, I don't want you to freeze. It's okay, you know, like. And he just dropped in, started charging. Within like 5 minutes, he was shrouping the, you know, grinds and stuff. And everybody else got tired out, and he was still going.
That's so sick.
You know what I mean? And he's 66 years old. And, he's on this trip. He's going on for 6 weeks. He's basically camping out, but he's skating all the, the evergreen parks and Dreamland parks, because most of the heavy crew of Dreamland are out of Missoula. Mm-hmm. So he's just like, he does it every year, I guess. So it's like, he's like 66 years old, and he just locked up his house for 6 weeks, and he's going to camp out in this killer van.
I commented, I was like, hitting Kopi in the deep end on the way to catch your social security check.
66 years old. Just supposed to be hope.
So what's up with this bowl at your house? I think we kind of skipped over that.
We're going to skip the hood news section until the end, and let's just dive right into the guest bike
but the
here.
hood news is the
We'll get to the hood news. We'll get to the hood news. But yeah.
So
tell us about the compound, and then we'll get into some more stuff.
About 3 years ago, my mom finally passed away. She's in a better place. She was suffering, and I was living at Medford at the time. Like I told you guys, I beat a prison rap, and I was in halfway houses. But I had this opportunity. I'm like, okay, I can get through this. I'm going to my groups and my programs, and all I need is some money to pay them out and get out of here. And that takes time.
Yeah, once you're in the system, it takes money to get out of the system.
With that being said, too, the inheritance takes time, because like you try to rush it, they tax you more and stuff. And I got a brother and sister involved with these inheritance, so I just was like, I got this mission. I'm gonna, I don't know if I'm gonna go to Glacier and Mount Baker first or out here, but I maybe want to buy, build a pool and get this like Skatopia. Bruce Martin and stuff.
Yeah,
get
like,
my own kind of version, but
like
not like people not burning cars in my backyard and stuff. So, to keep myself positive, which my therapist told me to do, I was just on my phone, like realtor.com, places in Sun River for sale, and like, oh, this looks great. And I really wanted that one. And it was like $100,000 more. I'm like, that's not in my budget. I mean, I had the money, but it's not in my budget. With my brother, who helps me out with my money, he's like, we want to do it for this. And it kept on going down, but it looked like what I wanted for a vision. And so I got it. They still wanted $399,000, and I just said, I'll give you $350,000 cash right now. And the realtor's like, they're not going to go for it. I'm like, well, we'll go from there. And then like 30 minutes later, they'll take it.
Yeah, it's a lot of cash.
No escrow, no bank loan.
Yeah.
I got in there in 9 days.
Yeah.
And I got to work. I was like, these trees got to go for parking, this and that. And then I called my good friend Red from Dreamland, Mark Red Scott, Burnside, crazy dude.
We don't have an air horn, but if we did, we'd be hitting it.
Woot, woot.
Yep.
But I hadn't talked to him in a long time, so I started reaching out, trying to call the Dreamland number, like, I want to get this thing going, like, I know Red, blah, blah, blah. And, hey, they're so busy that, like, I'm sure everybody, every day that they get like 18 calls from everybody all over the world wanting to do it. So I was like, I called my boy Johnny Glue, that I grew up with. I've known him since he was 5. And I was like, what's Red's cell phone number? Do you know it? He's like, he gave it to me, and I texted him like, hey, it's Mike, it's Jesus Crust. I'm still crust. Like, I'm thinking about building this pool. Just hit me up. I know you're busy. Like 10 minutes later, he called me, like, and it's like 25 years has gone by, and it's just like, it was like yesterday. And the next thing you know, the next week, he's like, hey, I'm going to come to your house, and we're going to party, and we're going to check it out, and yada, yada, yada. And then we just kind of worked from there as I started getting more money. I wanted Dreamland 100% on this one, like for bragging rights. And I rented the crew a house in Sun River, and then people stayed at my house, and they just, because Red's a good friend of mine, like, he's like, dude, this is one of my best friends, dude. Like, you guys need to step up the plate. You know what I mean? And they did, dude.
It looks so nice.
Provided.
One of the questions I had for you before I knew that is, I'm like, how did you guys do the coping? Like, where did the coping blocks come from? Because it looks so good.
Okay.
And there's only a few people that, like, as you know, there's
okay. So that's a good question too.
Ones,
so, my buddy Phil Tedder, he lives in Tigard. He grew up in Corvallis. He was like 4 or 5 years younger than me. I kind of coached him and took him under my wing. Little nerdy kid, and people picked on him. Like, no, I'm the only guy that can pick on this guy, But he just kept skating, and he decided he wanted to make pool coping.
Is that okay?
Tedder
I wonder
Stone.
if that's the same. Tedder
Stone, right?
That's the dude. Yeah.
And he's a good friend of mine.
Okay,
so like,
sick.
But I also have a guy, Joey Boisno, that in the back in the '90s owned Fish Paw.
Okay.
Fish Paw. I don't know if you guys remember those mitts and stuff. Fish Paw mitts. And stuff.
Okay, for snowboarding.
Yeah.
I think I've heard. I remember
it. He's making blocks in Central Oregon. He comes out all the time. Like anytime you see a post, he's pretty much skating out there. But like, it happened so fast. He's like, you got to give me 2 months to make this stuff. Where Tedder has been established for like 15 years, where he has all these blocks in the warehouse,
storage and stuff.
So like they just went and picked him up. And then with that being said, Tedder called me. He's like, I don't remember what it was, but he knocked off like $1,900
That's so
the bro
sick.
deal and stuff.
I have a friend that's like really into pool skating
And
work out
you know,
that
like, and it's
is
good.
about
It's
that.
good. You know, like we had to do minimal saucing and minimal like.
What's the dimensions on it? Like
The deep end. Okay, so with the pool, you know, I wanted it to still be like, because I grew up in Corvallis where there wasn't that many pools, and the ones that we had totally sucked, and it's like raining and stuff. We got to bucket these crappy pools in the rain, you know what I mean? But we would go down to California all the time and skate. So like I really grew up. I mean, I skated vert.
that's one of the questions that we can get to. I was like, so where are you from originally? And like, how did Corvallis area?
Yeah,
Okay.
but
how old were you when you started skating?
I started skating. I got my first skateboard for my 7th birthday.
Sick.
That was in 1974, and it was a solid 3-inch piece of oak with clay wheels and open ball bearings.
Fuck yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I fell in love with the thing, but yet like, you know, the streets, it just vibrated. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, but like I remember I would get out of, I couldn't take it to school. My mom wouldn't take me to school, so I'd run home in grade school, and then I'd go back to my school underneath the awnings where they had nice smooth sidewalk. And I watched all those stoner 70s dudes with the long hairs, with all that, you know, like I kind of emulated it, and I just never quit, you know, like.
Just sidewalk surfing.
Yeah, like I pretty much been through the whole evolution of skateboarding, the whole urethane thing and the
That's
wide
sick.
boards and then the baggy pants and the thinner boards and all that stuff.
Did you overlap time with Walle at camp?
I didn't. Walle came in later, but the funny thing about Walle is that era, looking in the magazines, like he was in Southern California and he was like, you know, the Walle pool service, pool service. Like I knew who that guy was. And
That's
then
so
I remember
rad.
he bailed Southern California, but he was on the coast cooking at a restaurant, or he owned a restaurant. And I heard about it. And I was like, man, maybe I should go to that mini bowl that he had out there, because I wanted to meet the guy. I still haven't really met the guy. But then I realized he's up here for a while, and, you know, like he's still snowboarding, he's still skateboarding. The pictures I've seen are killer, you know.
Well, maybe we'll come skate your bowl or
Anytime.
something.
That's what it's for.
Well, fuck it. How did you go from being a kid in Corvallis to snowboarding on Hood? When did you start snowboarding?
Okay, so, you know, like, you know, I skated. Skating was just, to me, I wasn't good in sports. You know, like I was a little kid. So basketball, I was good at baseball, but like skateboarding was individual, and I liked it. My dad really, really backed it. Like I skated, he saw the passion I had. So he really thought it was cool. I mean, he's like, you know, this is like artistic, and I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? I'm just skateboarding out here, you know. But he would do those trips with my family, where we go to like SeaWorld and Disneyland and stuff. But then I got to go stop by all these classic skate parks in the late 70s. Like I skated Del Mar, Upland, Winchester, Whittier, Campbell. I mean, the list goes on. When I get there, I'd be all paranoid. My dad's like, dude, I got you here, you know, because all these guys are killing it. I'm just like, dude, and like, it was all pools back then, dude. They were gnarly.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I can imagine, because I know how it feels to be a kid showing up at like the public skate park as a little kid, but I can imagine how amped up it is.
Was there a skate park in Corvallis when you started, or
no, not
shortly
at
after?
all.
No.
But you know, growing up when I was younger in the late 70s, and you know, like we still skated all over the place. And I remember, you know, our parents would take us into town to like Central Park. We got to skate around, and the cops just thought it was cool, you know. But then when we got into high school in the early 80s, they were just like just. I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to cuss or not.
You didn't say what
They're
you
like
want.
dickheads, you know what I mean? It's like it got. Like, and then they knew who we were, so it's kind of like they were just waiting for us.
Kind of small town vibes,
yeah,
right?
I mean, like I went to jail. I don't know how many times because I wouldn't pay my skateboarding tickets. It was just stupid.
It's pretty strict in that area of Oregon.
But it got to the point where, you know, and I've said this before on podcasts, like they didn't want us in the Safeway parking lot. They didn't want us hanging out slapping 7-Eleven. I mean, it didn't matter where we were at. The cops always got called, and we always got tickets. And a couple of our parents just got fed up with it. And like, my dad was one of the head vice principals of one of the high schools in Corvallis. There was 2. So he was very well respected, regardless of me and the way I grew up. But like, so I really didn't pay attention back then. But like, you know, when he went to the city and said like, dude, this isn't happening, they're like, oh, you know, like, our kids go to school. We better compensate for this. And he was not the type of person to do that. But my mom kind of explained it to me as like, like if he has a concern, they're going to solve it, because I think if they don't, he's going to take it out on their kids. And my dad, he was Baptist Christian, but like, I guess, they got the city to say, okay, here's the deal. We're going to give you this acre of land in this huge, like 90-acre park, which is another story in itself. If you guys raise $1,000, we'll give you $1,000 and to build your park. And we're like, cool. So our parents would type up this like piece of paper, and we would go to like a mini mart gas station and say, can we borrow your water?
Like a petition.
And we do car washes, and we'd be out there with our thing, and then like, and it was really cool because someone would hand out the little thing why we're doing this, and then those people would like go, I've said this before on podcasts, so whether she's working at a beauty salon and she went there on her lunch break, she'd go back and tell all the other ladies at the beauty salon to go do this. This is a good thing. And, like whether it was the mailman or fire, I think we had like the whole fire station showed up and stuff one time. And like, and by the end of the summer, we raised $1,000 for our ramp. And then they matched us and gave us an acre of land and fenced it. And we built a vert ramp out there.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Fuck
in
yeah.
Corvallis.
I was gonna say, what, $2,000? I'm like, that's not gonna build much of a skate park. But
And
you can build a vert ramp back in the 80s.
like the lumber yards donated wood. There was Evans Products that had Evanite. It was masonite, but they called it Evanite. And every year they would give us a full layer of free, masonite, because it gets weathered. But that park was seasonal too. You know what I mean? Once it got raining, like we were back in the streets.
How long was it until they had the cement park there?
That went in.
It looks like it's like in the 90s. Like
no,
style-wise.
okay. So funny story with that too is, so I bailed to Bend in 89, 90. I was getting in trouble, and a friend of mine was getting my buddy Johnny Glue had a snowboarding instructing trial to get a job at Mount Bachelor. And I was just on probation. My mom wanted me to get the heck out, and I talked to my probation officer, like, if he gets a job somewhere else, can we transfer him for the last 6 months? I don't want my kid to go to prison for, the remaining. And so I was like, you know what, I need to get out of here. And I just filled out an application and bailed. But I came back. I got a job cooking at Mount Bachelor, and then I came back that summer, and they were building a bypass over the river, and Burnside and Red and those guys, had already started Burnside. So and then I did a newspaper article, made the front page, because I would get so many tickets and go to jail over them that I left a bar one night, and I didn't know this at the time, but some girl that was working for the Gazette Times saw the cops just show up on their mountain bikes and just give me so much crap. I mean, I was pickled, but like, and she's like, does this happen to you all the time? I'm like, yeah, it does. She's like, well, I want to talk about it. She gave me the card. And the next day, someone from Gazette Times called me, and I did an interview. I said, meet me at the bar. I want a pitcher of beer and a squirrel burger, and they did it. But in that article, I talked about how we should probably build a park underneath that bridge, because Burnside was doing it and stuff. And then 20 years later, they did. You know what I mean? It still kind of caught on, and like my buddy Johnny Glue and some of those guys still lived up there. So maybe
that was the genesis for it. Was the article.
Because like it's like funny. I said, at least it's kind of covered. I mean,
I actually haven't skated that park, but I've driven past it quite a bit.
I think I've been there one time. It's not a Dreamland Park or anything, right? Or is it semi?
It's Corvallis for you. Obviously they had all this budget, but they wanted the cheapest way possible. So they hired like a concrete company.
Okay.
And they could pour foundations, they could do stuff, but they didn't know the importance of troweling in a transition.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So it was done. The design of it's not that bad.
No,
but
it doesn't look bad.
The pour and the execution was terrible. Like that little bowl they had to grind down. There was like noping on it. It was like, and
that's that era of skate park. And that's kind of like all the skate parks of that time in that era are kind of like that. But the revamps that they've done to some of them are sick. Like the Kaiser revamp.
The bottom line is they did. Dreamland did come in and
new bowl, right?
They redid a couple of the quarter pipes. They cut it out and redid it.
Okay.
And so it's like now it's kind of like, even though the other things are kind of faulty, what was really bad is redone.
Oh, that's right. No, they had that new bowl that's like
and then the Corvallis Skate Alliance petitioned for years.
I need to go see skate that.
And yeah, it's butter,
Yeah,
dude.
it's
It's
a
butter,
good
which
time.
is funny too because they built that, and then they went straight to my house.
Oh, really?
And this is the greatest thing about it was like
They bring the
because
forms?
it's the Corvallis, it's city. They they charge them ginormous $1 million, which they should. You know what I mean? I was a private pour, but they had all this leftover plywood, so they cut the whole frame for my pool on the Corvallis's dime.
There you
know
go.
what I mean?
Fuck
and
yeah.
they brought it over. I'm like, yeah, Corvallis paid for this. I was like, yeah,
Your family paid taxes there.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
But that
No.
bowl is like butter, dude. There's not a flaw in it.
That's
Okay.
sick. Well, how did you start snowboarding then?
So,
What brought you to
well, like I said, I
Govy
moved to
originally?
Bend to get out of trouble,
from Corvallis?
and I
As like a
I wrote a
teenager or what?
No, I was 20. Fuck, so like that. Those ages were so faulty with everything.
So
I did.
you're in Corvallis for a while.
Yeah, I left Corvallis in 89, 90. I was 20. I want to say I was 22. I was 22, and I had rode in like a Burton backhill before a couple of times. We go up to the little Mary's Peak and like, but like
Because it's pretty far. If
it's 3
like,
hours.
for anyone
away.
listening that has no idea, Corvallis is pretty far from the mountain. I went to school down there for a second.
Yeah.
And like you feel like
So-
it's so hard to. I dropped out because I couldn't
But,
stand not snowboarding.
When I first moved there, I just was like, just trying to get out. Everybody's like, you should snowboard. I'm like, a lot of those guys in Bend knew who I was from skateboarding, or they just heard, not to toot my horn, but like, yeah, Mike Pugh lives here now, and they're like, we need to get you up in snowboarding. But on my days off, I missed all my friends. I just wanted to go party, whether that was good or not. And I didn't really snowboard for like half that winter, and then finally, one of my buddies was like, you're going up today, and it took me like 30 seconds to figure that thing out. And being a vert skater, I was like, dude, this is like cheating, dude. I'm like,
Is that going
I don't
up?
have, I'm strapped in, but it's like, I've caught it right away. If there's a gnarlier side cut, it's like loose trucks. If there's a stiff side cut, it's like, it's
So
like
you're pretty
drag
natural at snowboarding
so,
after
yeah,
skating?
Yeah.
Okay.
I caught onto it right away, and then like a month later, I entered a contest I hood and got like second place. And I had only been snowboarding like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You're just driving up to Hood from Corvallis to
No,
or were you just like hanging out up
I was
here?
I was in Bend, but there was a contest at Hood, so we went
okay,
up to
gotcha,
Timberline.
gotcha.
And like,
Okay.
this is like the hand dug half pipes and stuff
Okay.
back then. Like there was no tranny really; it was more like hits. But like I got second place. Like.
So you're like, this is a sign.
I was like, okay, maybe I have a future with that. With that being said, too, Lib had just started making snowboards. The new thing. They had a fallout for a little while, and my buddy Chris Jameson. I don't know if that name's ever rang a bell with you guys, but he was one of the original. Him and Matt Cummins, Temple's older brother, were
Okay,
the
yeah,
original. Him, Chris Jameson, and Matt Cummins were the original riders of LibTech.
Okay.
And I grew up with Chris. He'd come skate my ramp in my backyard and stuff. And so when I moved up to Bend, I'm like, oh, Jameson lives up here? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, what's he doing? I'm like, dude, he's totally killing it. He's like the man. I'm like, the man at what? And they're like, he like wins contests on a snowboard. I'm like, dude, that guy can't even talk without drooling, and he's winning contests on a snowboard. And like, seriously, this was like GS and half pipe. That was the way you had to earn your points.
Okay.
But the guy was killing it. And so I kind of got grandfathered in with Mervin with that because I was his fan. He's like, oh, I'm glad you're up here and you're staying out of trouble. Here's a snowboard. And then like, this is Matt Cummins. And like, then he's like, here's a
Fuck yeah.
snowboard. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then got to the point where then like, they finally were like, just give us Mike's address and we'll send him some snowboards.
So you were getting sponsored like age 23, 24?
24.
Yeah, a
but I
couple
don't even
years
want to
in.
say it was like
Like flow.
I was
yeah.
I was grandfathered in.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't a token rider, but I never really wanted to be. But like, I could hold it down. But
Yeah.
like, I got to go with all those events pretty much
Yeah,
because
were
I
you
was
filming?
friends with Cummins and Jameson.
Were you
and they're
guys
like,
like filming at all, or was it mostly contests and just
it was
riding?
more contests and stuff
Yeah,
at the
okay.
time.
What year was this? Would you say, or like what?
I want to say 93 is when I really like, dude.
when did
like,
LibTech start making snowboards?
89, 90.
Okay.
That's sick.
They had the Matt Cummins model, and I want to say they had like a race board called like the Litigator.
Were they making skateboards at the same time also?
No, they were. Well,
Okay. They did that for a second.
they had made them, but they didn't have them in production at the time.
Okay.
But
That's
but then
sick.
like it just kind of escalated, and I started getting more boards, and I was invited on the stuff. But to me, it was like, like there was never a flyer with team rider might Pugh on it.
Yeah.
And I didn't really care if they're giving me free boards and I
Yeah.
can sell some to buy some weed and shit. You know what I mean? Or just
You're still
beer.
riding with all the same
And I'm
people.
riding with my friends that are on lib.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I met all these other people that were not on lib that were killer. You know what I mean?
So is that kind of how you transitioned into working for High Cascade?
Yeah. So I was working at the Deschutes Brewery, and I was like talking with the two owners, John Ingersoll and John Calkins. I was like, yeah, I want to go up there. You know, like I want to be up there for the summer. And I had the itch for snowboarding, and I knew that they had those ramps there.
They're just
and
in
then
there as
they're like,
customers.
okay, you're hired, because like
Yeah.
they would come into the brewery all the time, and I would cook them like wings and buffalo burgers and stuff like that. And then I blew my knee out, so
Okay.
I was like, I couldn't go up that year. I had surgery, and so I was like, okay, maybe next year. And then miraculously for me, like I was making really good money at the brewery. I'm like, I don't know. And then like I called in on a powder day, and someone saw me on the mountain, so they hired me. So like it all worked out. They're like, so I went up there in '94 to government camp, and I just fell in love with that town, dude. Like, you know, there's no open, I don't know about now, but there was no open container law. I'm like literally I can go in the store and buy beer and then just go out of the store and start drinking it right here on the swingy chair.
I don't
Like,
actually
yeah.
know if there is or not. I'm not sure if anyone knows if there is or not.
Well, from what I was told, because it's not a city, it's like a village, and it's
Yeah.
on Forest Service land, you're allowed to drink alcoholic beverages.
Okay.
But if you can't walk into a bar or a restaurant or a store with a beer, and you can't just buy it in that bar or store, but if you go outside, you can crack it and drink it.
Okay.
You know, I try not to drink I don't drink like I used to. But, you know, to me, I was like, this is awesome. You know what I mean? So
you got hired by camp for cooking for a summer snowboard camp,
The
right?
first year, I was the assistant cook, but the main guy, like, just kind of made me do everything. And he was just kind of this, like, fruity dude from, like, Portland. And, like, I was like, I'll do everything. I know what I'm doing. You know, I got enough experience by now. Just get this fruity dude away from me. And then, like, they didn't hire him back. So at the end of that season, I was like, yeah, I want to talk to you about, like, maybe, like, yeah, we already want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to get rid of that guy. So
that's how you became the head chef?
95 to 2000, I was the head chef of the world's biggest snowboard camp at the time.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I have it written in here. How much is K unit like the ultimate hack for riding?
K unit?
That's what they called it at
What's K
once
unit?
once it all blended. That everyone called it
Kitchen
K
unit.
like kitchen unit.
Okay, now say that question again.
Isn't like the ultimate hack for riding? That's what it turned into. I don't know how it was when you were doing
but
it.
you know, the funny thing is like we were more into skateboarding
Okay.
than we were into
Okay.
snowboarding. I mean, we went up and rode all the time. I mean, probably 2 or 3 times of the week.
Uh-huh.
But like I, being the head chef, I had keys to all those ramps, right?
Okay.
And I would make breakfast, and then they'd have to make a sack lunch because we don't do lunch because they're up on the hill.
Yep.
So from the time breakfast gets done till 1:30, the mountain closes. There's
You're
no
able
one.
to
There's
skate.
no one there. So we
Yep.
unlock,
So that's what you guys
we unlock
like to
the
do?
ramps, and we get to
Uh-huh.
skate. There's no one there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like,
See, it's the hack.
you know, so like we just, you know, like I said, I ran the kitchen. It's like, let's go make some Philly cheesesteak sandwiches. You know, like we didn't make that for the campers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we just skated, dude.
Okay.
And then
What was the skate park like at that time?
well,
It
you know,
probably changed a little bit all the time.
Okay, we had a decent vert ramp in the street course. I wasn't really a street skater, and never really was, but it was worthy. But as they, you know, every year got bigger and bigger, and they revenued more money, and so they started to change things and make it a little bit better.
So by the time I started being around Govy and seeing like the tail end of High Cascade's time in Govy, they were all over. Like there's a giant street course and there's some shit behind Charlie's.
I mean, it
like,
was just
was it always like that, or was
no,
it?
the first year, like we had a.
What did it look like the very first year? Because, dude, I was trying to find like videos and stuff, and there's like nothing. So like, paint us some pictures.
The first year we were at Multipore, which is over the bridge,
Okay.
and we had the vert ramp out there with the
Like in the Ski Bowl parking lot, the Ski Bowl East parking lot.
Multiple,
is where
the
it was?
multiple parking lot. Like
Okay,
you
sick.
drive up to up to where the rides are now and stuff.
That's where the
Like
vert ramp was?
Vert ramp was up there. 3 mini ramps that 2 were hipped, and then there was a spine that went over this other one.
Okay.
And then where the street where the new lodge is, High Cascades Lodge up at Government Camp, that's where the street course was, and they just barged it. They didn't get a permit or anything.
They just started setting up
they started
street
setting
ramps.
stuff
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
That's sick.
You know what I mean? And they just got away with it. And then as they revenue more money, then it was like we had the Mount Hood Ski Club right across from Charlie's Mountain View, and the street course was in the parking lot, and then the vert ramp and the mini ramp were right where that general store big building is.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, it was center town, dude.
Right.
That's crazy. When did the Govy Gym get built? I didn't realize that was a new building.
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
Well, yeah, dude. I was like, where is everything? And I was like, what's this monstrosity? You know, like,
Because you went up to Govy.
Yeah.
You went
I
up to
had been
Govy
there
today.
25
Yeah,
years, but like
no, straight up.
last year when I went through, or
That's so sick,
Or
though.
no, when I got out of jail and beat the sentence, and I went up there for the reunion, I was like, what is this? You know what I mean? And I was like, I need to get cigarettes. So I went to where the store was. It's all closed down, and I also realized there's a store in there, and they sell, like, so we had to get hard liquor down in Welch's.
Okay.
And there's there's like a liquor store in there with a cage, and I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool, but I was like,
It's just different
dude,
from
this
what
blows.
you remember. Yeah.
Dude, I'm, like, I'm not into this. And
Nope.
there's light posts everywhere and stuff, street lamps.
That's all owned by Timberline.
Yeah, of course,
Yep.
dude. Get out of town.
It all funnels. Anyways, that's sick. So you're up there. So you started at camp 94?
I was gonna ask, what about Wendels? Were you skating there, or was it?
Yeah, what did the
okay.
camps think of each other at that time?
At that time, like, there was a rivalry, not with the actual staff of each one,
Right.
but Wendell and Calkins and
Kind of the owners.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, but you know, being that I was at the Ratskiller every night, and Wendell was a whiskey drinker, like, dude, I became. And then Tom Nordwall, you guys heard that guy's name? Right?
Yeah.
He was like the head coach of Wendell's, and we are buds, right?
Okay.
So like, you know, there was no animosity between me and Wendell, like, you know what I mean? But there was this competition with them and this rivalry, and I think like Wendell, like, I hate to say it, at the time we were kind of the world's biggest snowboard camp at the time, and they weren't trailing too far behind, but it really irked him.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny now because everything's at Wendell's, you know, and they
Right.
collaborate, which
Yeah.
is really cool, you know.
Yeah,
is
it was
kinda
all
sick.
from the kids' perspective. Growing up in the area, I grew up out here. It seemed like High Cascade was this polished, like, more of like world renowned, or like, you know, world company, this broader thing. And
Yeah.
then Wendell's was like still this major thing, but was more like of the people, and was more like I have cousins in Welch's and stuff. I'm like, this just reminds me of going to my cousin's house and skating. Like, this is great.
But
And,
you know,
Oh no, I liked Wendell's.
there
The
was
Shamrock Inn.
Yeah,
But like,
exactly.
you know, like when it came to the coaches at Wendell's and the coaches at High Cascade, you know, they're all bros because they're competing all year long.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah, it's
there
all the
was
same
no
people.
animosity
Yeah.
other than the owners themselves.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like everybody, it's like, oh, F you, High Cascade diggers. Like, let's fight. Like, you know, there was no like ramp locals and daggers of the diggers of Wendell's and High Cascade. You know, like we all hung out to Ratskiller
Okay.
and ate pizza and drank until got ourselves silly, you know?
That's sick. I know towards the end of, like, right before the brands merged, I think that was like the most polar it became, because like that's the whole brand image behind High Cascade at the time was like 100% snowboarding, because Wendell started offering skiing and stuff, and then that was one of the things they tried to stuff when the brands merged.
You know, there was a lot of things, you know, towards the end of High Cascade that I didn't like.
Yeah, and I know
You
a lot of people.
As you know, they got bigger and bigger, and things got more polished, and there was more industry involved, and a lot more people telling me what I could and could not do, and I'm like, you know, fuck off, dude. Like, I cook for 350 people a day, every day. Don't fucking tell me what I think I need to do, or don't tell me, like, you need to watch your budget. I went under budget every year. You know what I mean? So, you know, like, but, you know, when it comes to, like, the whole ski thing and the polished things, and it's like, it's like...
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
kinda
know
like
what
they
kind
were-
of a
they-
budget you were working with, but I've seen the camp budgets that they've had in some years, and it isn't shit.
Well,
what, per kid or like per head, what it is,
we
it's
actually
insane
had a
what,
pretty good
what
budget.
the cooks are able to do.
You know, like, I can't tell you, remember, but, like, dude, I think I had, like, at the time, like, if I remember right, it was 95, summer 95. I think I had a $475,000 budget for 3 months. But in the same sense, dude,
The last Cisco.
Those guys were
The Cisco
awesome.
disco.
They loved me because like the guy makes a commission off everything we sell, right?
Yeah.
And they would bring those semi trucks up 2 days a week, and the guy would always bring me like a half gallon of Absolute. That was my drink. I was always in the kitchen.
Fuck yeah.
Like, because he just was making thousands of dollars every month. Because like just off High Cascade.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, I was like, dude, this is kind of tripping me out. Like, I don't want to screw up. So like, I really worked with the girls in the office, the numbers ladies. After every camp, can you tell me how much money was spent on the food and how much money I have left? So I could recycle
Yeah, because that's
things.
a tight margin that you have to be in. Like,
But I never went over budget.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Of course, they never give me a bonus when I went under budget either. You know what I mean? So,
well, that's a tough position. Like, you know, as you pointed out, it's like that's a position you need to make friends with in any scenario, but especially at camp. Like, it's important.
there's a lot
have
of
the cook on
things
your
that
side.
there's a lot of things that I learned really quickly that I just didn't see coming, and it was all on me. You know, and I'm like, there was a couple of times.
Where were you guys cooking out of? Like, where was the kitchen at?
It was
in the Cascade Ski Lodge? Or?
In the Cascade Ski Lodge, the kitchen they had there. But then I finally, after a year or two, it's like, you guys just need to donate another oven that I can cook bacon and, you know, hotel pans full of stuff in, and get them another fryer. You know what I mean? Just leave it here. So I, you know, because like I had like one fryer, a flat, and 2 ovens.
And like
And I'm
400
cooking
kids.
for 350 fucking people,
Yeah.
dude.
Insane.
You know what I mean? So like, you know, I had to make the menus to where I'd go in at 4:30, dinner would be at 6. You know, crew come in about 5:30 to help me set up and stuff, but I'd go in like an hour or two early. So there's like, you know, you had to be pretty bland and pretty basic. You know, like spaghetti.
And
You make a veggie sauce, and then you get the pre-Cisco meatballs and stuff. So there's meat and veggies, and they have all the seasonings to like they can season them themselves. You know, we always had a green salad, a big tub of green salad. You know what I mean? So like,
you kind of find your staples.
yeah,
and,
like
and hit
burrito
them
night.
over and
You know,
over.
it's like it's just big in bulk.
Which, dude, I don't know if you know this or not, but I lived at camp year round at the Wendels campus for like 5 years and some change, running summer camps, then run the academy, and was broke as shit the whole time, living off camp budget. And so that's all I ate was camp food for like 5 years.
You know,
it is bland and
it's
it
kind
is
of funny
repetitive.
you say that though, because like I ordered like steak
Cisco
and lobster
disco.
that they didn't.
Yeah,
know about.
you bought
Which,
out.
yeah,
So,
I
like, you
missed
know,
I
I'm
missed
like,
an era
I've
there.
have all these girls and people I'm trying to impress. I'm like, it's like, you know, 11:30. Like, let's sneak into the kitchen. I'll make you guys steak and lobster. They're like, yeah, we're totally wasted. You don't work at High Cascade Snowboard Camp. I was like, no, I do. You know, we go in there and like, sometimes like house monitors come down. Can you quiet down the Iron Maiden? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And they never narked me off, and I'd like make like steak and lobster for people and stuff. Like,
That's sick.
but you know, like people, you know, and I made good money. Like,
As you should if you're the head cook there. If you're
you know,
they
they paid the whole kitchen, the house right across the street from the Cascade lot. They got us all passes. We had access to food that no one else had access to. You know what I mean? But the diggers and the coaches, they didn't make squat. You know what I mean?
But it's worth it.
I felt
definitely worth it for the experience.
I felt pretty. There was a lot of times I felt guilty. I would like. I'd have these moments of clarity, and if you knew me back then, like clarity was never really part of anything with me, because I was pretty much, you know, my extracurricular activities was from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. But like, I really felt for those people, you know what I mean? And I remember a lot of times, like, some people were like, you know, because I'd have to go up to the office to get like checks to go into town and get other supplies and stuff. And there'd be people up there like in tears because like they can't pay their rent, but they're here working full time, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And there was a couple times that like, you know, like I would wait a couple days and then like, you know, like, hey man, here's a couple $100, dude. You know what I mean? Like I made good
Man of the
fucking money,
people.
dude. You know what I mean? And it's like, and the people that did say that, you know, like, were worthy of saying that. I mean, we had people that would do that all the time. I deserve more money. I'm so happy you see me in the videos. They're like, yeah, whatever, dude. You know what I mean? But these are like people that worked really hard and like had the crappiest jobs and like were getting like, I don't even know what they got for a session. It was like it was nothing.
The worst I've ever seen is there was a dishwasher one time that got I think it was $26 a session because it subtracts. You take the food and you take the housing allowance out of it.
Maybe the tickets.
Yeah, so like, and then they're like, oh well, we still owe you $26.
In their defense,
they're like, just pay me $0 so I can at least say I'm working for free.
In their defense, they're like,
not to sit here and talk shit about camp.
No. But in their defense, it's like, we pay your rent, we buy you a pass, you get to eat for free. And
you know what it is.
But yeah, $26 for a 10-day session ain't gonna cut it.
No, you're not right. You're gonna do nothing else. You're not gonna make it through the in between.
Meanwhile, I'm making $1,500 a month. You know, in like '93, which is like, you know, now it's like 5,000.
Right.
And everything's
pretty good for snowboard camp.
And like, you know, I never paid for anything. Dude. Like.
Yeah.
So.
What were you doing in the winter in those years? Because you worked at High Cascade in the summer. So what would you do in the winter?
I want to go back. So that first year I worked at High Cascade Snowboard Camp, I had a girlfriend, and she'd come up on her 2 days off when we were at Multipore. And I just loved it up there, dude. I fell in love, and like, you know, I met a bunch of people, and like I told you guys, like, you know, all these people I looked up to were working at the camps, and like they became my friends. And then I earned respect not by my skills of a skateboarder or a snowboarder, but from cooking them food and being the guy that's like, dude, he was the last guy when I left in the bar, but yet he's up at 4:30 in the morning making breakfast. It's like a lot of times I'd be like, what time is it? Like, dude, it's like 3:45. I'm like, give me a 6-pack in the Rats Club. They give me a 6. I just go in and start cooking breakfast because I knew if I lay down, 350 people aren't going to eat breakfast, right? Yeah. But, you know, like, it just got good. But I just remember at the end of that season, I was kind of bummed. I was like, fuck, I'm back in Bend. And then I went to a trade show, and I came back, and my girlfriend was just kind of being weird. And, you know, she's like, I think you need to get your own place and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I put one and one together, and our roommate, this male roommate we had, worked with her in the place she worked with, and they were screwing around with each other. And I was like, you know what, dude? Screw both of you people, you know? And she's like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, called a friend, I'm like, I'm going to pack my stuff in your garage for right now. And I just took my skateboard and a bag of clothes, and I hopped on a Greyhound bus and got dropped off at Huckleberry's. Like 2 weeks after I got back from camp. And I went down to the bar, and I remember Pam Green was her name, was the head bartender lady. She was a little bit older than me at the time. She's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, girlfriend's been cheating on me. I'm gonna move here, I think. Within 30 minutes, she got me a job cooking at the Mount Hood Brew Pub down the street. Yeah. And she rented me a room. I hadn't even been in town 30 minutes. And I was like, okay, everything's going to be okay.
We're both veterans of the Mount Hood Brew Pub.
Yeah, I've cooked at the Mount Hood Brew Pub. Was it owned independently, or right?
No,
it was Timberline?
Timberline owned it at the time.
Well, they still do, yep.
Yeah. But, you know, and then I just
took care of you.
Yeah, and I just like, everything's going to be okay. And then
they get you right into like employee housing, or were you?
Well, I lived with Pam at her house, which is just right up the street from that monstrosity new building on the corner there. And I lived there that whole winter till the next camp started. But, you know, so I want to go into something. So I'm like, all right, I'm excited. I'm back in government camp. And I'm like, but, you know, like I didn't have much money. And so we're going to go into skee bowl here for a second. So everybody's like, oh, don't worry about it, dude. I'm like, what do you mean, dude? Like, it's dumping. And they're like, oh, it's free bowl, dude. It's free bowl. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, just trust me. So I go with, like, some of the locals that I had met at the time.
It was like 94?
It was 94, yeah.
Okay.
And it was a good season where it was cold. It was dumping. I think it opened up on Halloween Day.
Okay.
Sick.
It was like
early.
And I just remember it was like, if they ask to see your ticket, just tell them no. I was like, what? And they're like, no, just seriously, just tell them no. And like, so I'm with these guys, and like, they don't say anything, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm like one chair behind them, can I see your ticket? I'm like, nope. And they're just like, you know what I mean? And it got to the point, there was this unspoken rule. Like, the whole crew, like, were there, lived in government camp. They're like, just let the locals on, dude. If they say, oh, I don't know, it must have fallen off, then don't let them on the chair. But if they just say no, we know they're from government camp, we'll let them on.
Okay.
So that whole winter, I didn't have a pass.
Okay.
And I rode skee bowl, free bowl. Yeah.
Same chairs.
Same chairs, dude. Like,
That's awesome.
got some great days in on that, dude.
I might have rode free bowl all year this year as well. I didn't have a pass this year. Shoutouts to the boys that take no for a pass.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, fuck yeah. So right off the bat, you started working at camp, then came back and you were here for right away for like year round, and then you did 5 years at camp.
94, summer 94 to 2000.
Fuck it. One of the questions I had is, who are some of the notable like staff members or like pros that were coming through, and then who are some of the notable like campers of your
Okay, so obviously notable staff was, Todd Richards, Shannon Dunn.
I might grab one while you're in there.
Yeah, you can give me one too. Pass. Shannon Dunn, Jim Rippey, Blaze Rosenthal. A lot of the returners, but like we're talking the same thing. High Cascade was the world's biggest, so like the people that were in the magazines always worked for High Cascade at the time. And well, they do guest at Wendels, but so there was Todd, Peter Line, Jamie Lynn. I mean, the list just went on.
Yeah, it's like name someone
everybody
in the industry
that I
they
looked
came
up
through.
to. I was like,
that's so
sick.
sick.
You know what I mean? Worked up there. Now, when it comes to the campers, Harrison Ford's kids showed up once,
That's
which
wild.
was really funny. His name was Malcolm, and when the camps would leave, we'd have that weekend, but we'd always have a group meeting, and usually every meeting we like pretty much every session there would be some celebrity's kid there, so they would tell you like it's kind of the same thing. It's like treat them like everybody else, you know what I mean? But we were told that Harrison Ford, because he's got his own private pilot's license and he has a jet and stuff.
Okay.
That him and his wife, she wrote E.T., that movie E.T., E.T. Phone Home.
The wife did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And so
Family's
they
fucking
flew.
loaded.
They flew to Portland in his private jet, rented a car, and brought him up here. And everybody was supposed to like just. And none of the staff did that. They just followed him around like a fucking puppy dog, right? And so it was kind of funny. So I had to go up to the Snowflake where they had a corporate lodge up the street and get some checks because I was going to go into Portland the next day. And I had I had turquoise hair at the time. That's my favorite color. I've had every color, but like. And I was walking up there, and Harrison Ford was standing outside of the lodge where his son was. Because they have like different packages. You can stay in the fancy house or the fucking, you can stay in the bunk beds and stuff. And his mom's like, I think this is her first time at camp. So she's just grilling the monitors like, so what, this and that. And Harrison's just outside, but there's like all this staff around him. You know what I mean? And I'm like, just walking up like, dude, like that's so lame. We were told not to do that. I was starstruck, but I was like, kind of want to. But then the funny thing was, I was walking up, and I'm stoned out of my mind because I was just smoked weed 24/7, and he just looks and starts to smile, and I can hear him kind of like mumbling, and then they all look, and he's like, who the fuck is that guy? You know what I mean? They're like, hey, Pugh, what's up? And I'm like, just getting some checks for some food for the kitchen. And they're like, that guy's gonna cook Malcolm's food, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the grin I saw on him was like, okay, everything's gonna be okay. So I remember I got the checks, and then like I'm all like a puppy dog, the candy store. I'm like running down, like everybody's like prepping this stuff. I'm like, dude, I just saw Harrison Ford dude up there, blah 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 blah, and like. By this time, they go back down to the lodge, and like the kitchen door is always open when we're cooking. And he's like, all of a sudden, they're like, yeah, whatever, dude. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, I hear this like, Mike. I turn around, I was like, Mike, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, where's the juice fountain? And it was Harrison Ford. It was like Han Solo. And I remember the whole crew just stopped. You know what I mean? They're like. And I'm like, he called me Mike. He knows me by my name.
He knows your name, yeah.
Like, totally. So, that was a big one. Rick Ocasek
Yeah, Han Solo is pretty fucking big.
Rick Ocasek from The Doors. His son was up there. He broke his leg, and so he had to go home. And I remember I had to go to Portland to get, because I get a lot of stuff that's not from Cisco. So like once a week I go to Portland. They're like, can you just drop this guy off at the airport? He's going home. I'm like, yeah. So I got all the paperwork, and it's like, Boston, Massachusetts, where the Cars are from. And it's like, okay, so what's your dad's name? He's like, Rick. He's like, yeah, he's from the Cars. And I swear to God, he's total slender, had that same Rick Ocasek mullet hairdo. He was there. We had the drummer of Aerosmith's kid, little Jesse Kramer.
Damn.
Who totally fell in love with me, with having hair like this, and was like, he's like, and I knew who he was before he got there, and he just kind of like hung out and wanted to skate with me, and like, can I help out in the kitchen? It was like a really cool dude. I remember one day he's like, dude, my dad and his friends would totally love you, dude. It's Aerosmith, you know what I mean? So like,
That's so sick.
and like Billy Joel's daughter, Christy Brinkley, and Billy Joel, that piano man guy, and she just looked like her mom, like, so there was a
That's
bunch
crazy.
of people.
A lot of celebrity.
Yeah,
a lot of celebrity
a lot of
kids.
celebrities.
What about any kids that like came as campers and then are like the Bodie Merrill and stuff like that? Like,
At the time, I know my first year, John Cardiel was a camper,
oh no shit.
and then
That's so
within
sick.
the next year he was in that critical condition or whatever. And
Yeah.
and then the next year he was on Lamar and stuff, but he was a camper.
Fuck yeah, that's so tight.
Dude,
not
I was
being
so
getting over
phased
than
out all
cardio.
the time, but
Yeah,
like,
and it's hard to tell too. You're
but
just
there
like
was a lot.
shovel
There
and
was a
slop,
lot.
you know?
I know that there was a Travis Yamada from Oakland or Stockton, and he lives in Bend now and makes the river surfboards and stuff. And he's still still involved in snowboarding and helps out like Dirksen at the Derbies and the Big Wave Challenge and stuff like that. But there were a lot of campers that became coaches and then became like professional.
Yeah, the whole like growth within it's so cool
I know.
to watch.
I can't confirm that Scotty Whitlake was a camper, but I know he became a digger
Okay.
for a couple years, and then he just took off with M3 and then LibTech for a while. I don't think he snowboards anymore, but like, I saw a lot of people that were like little. And this is like after I retired, and I still look at the magazines.
Yeah,
and
yeah, you
stuff,
still see
I'm
him.
like,
You're like,
holy crap, dude, that guy's killing it.
I'm starting to feel some of that now. Some of the kids I coached are like taking off in the industry. It's really crazy to watch.
But in the same sense, the industry's so different now. It's like they're almost like parents are like, we're gonna conceive a child, and they're gonna be a professional snowboarder.
Yeah, it's all
what I mean?
pre-planned.
It's like before they're even born. And
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's kind of hard to make if you aren't one of those kids going to camp and having a pre-groomed path
yeah.
there. But that's sick. Well, what are some camp war stories? Someone chimed in with the question. This might be a good time to ask it. Mount Hood Polson said they want to know about the airplane ride with Pugh Lewis.
Oh, okay. Paulson, dude. Like, okay, so worked with me at the Mount Hood Brew Pub. Loved to drink. Found him many times. Passed out in the snow. You know what I mean? Like he left Rathskeller, and when I leave the Rathskeller, like an hour later, he's like 15 feet away in the snowbank.
He didn't make it far.
Damn.
So
I hear a lot of stories of people saying that. And
Okay,
I'm just
so
like, that's so scary.
I went on camp would get done, and I would go with my friend to the trade shows in San Diego that were in September, right? Because like I would, go there and just party and had maybe a little responsibility with this Quality Snowboards in Mervyn, and then go to like Mexico and go to some pretty shady bars and stuff, have some fun with some ladies and stuff like that. And we stayed at the hotel on the harbor, but in San Diego they had this thing the same 3 days as the trade show that was there in the plaza. It was called Street Scene, so they knock off about 20 blocks, and you have to pay money to get in. And then there was like a smaller stage, then a bigger stage, and then the main stage. And so there's bands playing, and then all the restaurants had tables outside and stuff.
Yeah.
And so like I remember one night it was, I don't remember the bands. It was like Joe Satriani was the headliner, which was really cool because like I'm not like a big Satriani fan, but like from my hotel room I could open up my window and it was like I could look down and see the lights going, but like he was just jamming, right? And then the next night was I think the Black Eyed Peas, and I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, and then the next night was Huey Lewis, was that like closing set, Huey Lewis and the News, and we ate acid that night, and my buddy's like, we should actually pay, just go in there so we can heckle Huey Lewis, dude. Like, that'd be fun. I'm like, nah, dude, we'll probably go to jail. You know what I mean? So, like, we don't go, and like, we just like, I don't know what really happened, because I know I ate a bunch of acid, and so we got to leave in the morning, and we get on our flight, United flight, and we're in San Diego, and I'm just like not having it, dude. Like, just I hadn't slept, and like, you know, it's burning off, and I'm like sitting there, and all of a sudden,
You went through the airport on acid?
yeah,
Dude, that's fucking gnarly.
and so I'm sitting in my chair, and I'm next to the window, and there's a chair open, and then my buddy's sitting right behind me, and all of a sudden he's like starts shaking my chair, and he's like mumbling stuff, all excited, and I'm just like laughing, because I'm like, dude, stop, you know what I mean? Like, and then all of a sudden he quits, and I'm like, okay. Guy sits next to me on the airplane, and he starts doing it again, and I'm like, dude, I'm just giggling, because I'm like, you know, like, I'm trying to go to sleep, but I'm still frying balls, and then all of a sudden the dude like puts his hand next to me, and I look at him, and it's fucking Huey Lewis, and he's sitting right next to me on a fucking airplane. I got hair like this and shit, you know, and he's like, I think your friend's making fun of me. And I'm like, whoa, dude, it's Huey Lewis, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh my God, dude. I was like, just kind of got adrenalized, the acid kicked back in, and like, and it was just so funny. So like,
Right after you guys had almost seen him.
yeah, and so, yeah, totally. And so, you know, it takes off, and like, and then, you know, he's like kind of talking with me and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, we came here for this trade show, and yada, yada, yada. And then, you know, like, my buddy's all, hey, Pugh, and I'm like, what? He goes, it's hip to be square, you know what I mean? And I start laughing. He's like singing Huey Lewis songs, dude. And Huey Lewis is totally into it, dude. Like, he's like thinking, God, you know, like, these guys are festive, you know what I mean? So like, and so I'm like, yeah, dude, this and that, and like, and then he's like, hey, Pugh, I'm like, what? He goes, that's the power of love, you know what I mean? And he kept doing this to where like you know, we were getting loud and festive, and Hugh was actually getting into it to where the stewardess comes up and goes, sir, you need to calm down, you know, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, oh, no, they're fine. We're having a good time. And they're like, he's like, okay, Huey, will you sign this napkin for me? You know what I mean? And then it was like, the one that got me the most is we were talking, and the drinks come, and I'm like, yeah, I need a vodka mineral water, dude. I need to calm down. You know, I'm grilling, you know what I mean? So I pound it, and then she walks back in, and I get another one, and then all of a sudden, you know, like, he's just kind of reading or something, and then like John's like, hey, Pugh, I'm like, what? He goes, I want a new drug, you know what I mean? And by that time, I thought I was gonna wet myself. I was laughing so hard, and Hugh was like, dude, do you go up and use the bathroom, dude? Like, but he wasn't bummed at all.
Yeah, he liked it.
No, yeah, he probably knew it.
The stewardess came back over again and was like, you guys seriously need to, like, she didn't say like quit making fun of Huey, but like,
yeah,
he's like, no, this is great.
No, he's a musician. He probably was like, I'm around my people.
So, okay, we're finally flying, and we're not talking really, and then she walks back in. I'm like, yeah, I need another vodka mineral water. And she's like, I'm sorry, on a 50-minute flight, you're only allowed 2. And I'm like, he's like, you know what? A vodka mineral water does sound good right now. She's like, oh, okay, Huey. You know, and she walks off, and, you know, both our tables are down, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm just out of it. And she brings it to him. Here you go, Huey. And she brings two of the flight things instead of one, because it's Huey Lewis. And then, like, you know, a bigger cup. And he just, I was sitting there, and he's just all, you know, I'm just kind of like, fuck. And he's reading, and about 30 seconds later, he just goes, puts it on my table, just, and it was so funny because when we got off the plane in San Francisco, which is where he's from, he goes, you know what, dude, I've traveled the world, and I've never sat next to like a turquoise dude that's grilling balls on acid. That's so fun to be around. You know what I mean? And he just gets off the plane. Like,
What a compliment.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, Huey, that's cool. You know,
That's
like,
great.
Yeah.
That's
Fucking
a great story.
Great question. Well, Mount Hood Polson also asked, they said, remember pissing on tourists through the Rathskeller windows?
Yeah, dude.
You was an Imbob and myself.
And Bob, rest in peace. They both got caught. I started that. It's a long story, but like.
Were you guys staying above?
No. The Rathskeller had, like, if you walk into the Rathskeller where the sunken area is, there's these like cinder block vent things where they could take the wood and pull them up.
Okay.
And back then they used to have this wooden bench that would go around. And then when we get all totally wasted and the owner at the time would kick us out, we would just sit there and fucking be dicks and like, you know, like, or like if someone like wanted to fight us and stuff, we'd wait for them to sit down when they're playing pool and fucking pee through the windows. Like, I mean, it's funny. Okay, I'm 57 years old. I don't do it anymore. But like, I got Paulson and M-Bob. M-Bob died of cancer when he was 26. It sucked. But like, they were my soldiers, dude. But they got caught. So like, they actually took the blame because like, I just like almost beat up the owner and was kind of like 86. I wasn't supposed to be in there, and so like, but they got caught because they kept. I was like, don't go back there and do it. He's like gonna, you know, he's like a sniper. But
so what was this? Is a good segue. What was the bar scene like back when you were there?
Well, I can tell
imagine
you.
It's pretty much the
I can
same,
tell you this, dude. Like,
because
I kind of had like this. I kind of had like this unspoken rule tab that I never had to pay at any place. Not that I'm saying like I'm God's gift to everything, but I put my time in and I took care of like I said, dude. There was only a handful. I mean, like it's not like it is now. So like, I could go to the village store and be like, dude, I need a can of chili until my paycheck, and then I never had to pay for it. You know what I mean? Old man Charlie, not Chucker from Charlie's, was like, oh, you're out of money? Like, here, just drink whatever you want, dude. You know what I mean? It was awesome, dude. Like, just like I said, just stuff that they, you know, you just don't get away with anymore, dude. Like, hey man, I'm out of money, you know, like, and before things kind of went south of the Rathskeller, the guy was kind of cool. It's like, okay, just mop the floor at the end of the night. I'll let you drink whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have to have a job if you lived in government camp if you were willing to put some time in with something. You know what I mean? It's like family.
There's still probably some broke people in government camp asking for saying they don't have money for beer.
Yeah.
On the nightly basis, I'm sure. But that's sick. Yeah, I imagine it's probably the same scene. I don't know. I just see so many photos of parties at the Rat on like the Mount Hood OG's
Okay,
page.
so the Rathskeller, like, okay, so I was at Charlie's today, right? And I'm excited. Those guys are like, you know, like because I'm coming here, everybody's like, we need to hang out, yada yada yada. Charlie's, other than they've revamped the kitchen, which they should, they've improved some stuff. It's still the same.
It's same posters on the ceiling. Everything's the same.
There's still people in there, sit at the same place. And I haven't been there in 25 freaking years, right? But you go into the Rathskeller and it's like, there's kids playing video games downstairs where I had RKL play and stuff, you know, like bands playing stuff. And it's like, and the only two things that are really still there are just the two open cooler things where there's a snowboarder on one side and a skier on the other. It's like,
other than that,
it blows me away, dude. I'm like, but the Rathskeller was like,
maybe they had to get rid of all the piss.
I mean, like a lot of people didn't have like phone service. They didn't have cell phones like they do now. And a lot of people didn't have landlines. So like the Rathskeller was like your information hub. Hey, have you seen Pugh today? Oh yeah, he's up at Ski Bowl. You know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? It's like, have you seen Pugh today? Oh, he might be out at Trillium Lake. You know, or if I would go in there and say, hey, have you seen M-Bob today? Oh, him and Paulson are drunk by the bridge peeing on cars or something. You know what I mean? But it was like, it was kind of like the operator system. Okay. You know what I mean? You go in there and you know where everybody was because they usually went and check in there because they'd get a beer or coffee or something like, what are you doing today? So you could find, like, if you need to find somebody, you go to the Rathskeller, you know?
Okay.
Like, if I went in there now, I'm looking for, like, who the fuck are you?
Right.
Who the fuck is that? You know what I mean? It's like,
So
it's
back in the day, was
there.
Rathskeller more local than Charlie's?
dude, Rathskeller was 100% local.
Okay.
But Charlie's was 100% local too, and there was no, like, you know, Wendels versus High Cascade there. There was the older crew that basically would go to Charlie's, and the younger crew would go to the Rathskeller. But the older crew also were like, the younger crew are festive, and they fuck shit up and break shit. We're totally like that. We used to be that guy. You know?
They liked it.
But
yeah.
you could go to the Charlie's, and you'd still get embraced, and they would come over and get embraced.
Okay.
That's sick.
You know what I mean? It was like...
Was Rathskeller owned by Ski Bowl, or is it owned by somebody else you know?
When I first moved there, it was owned by this dude that just did so much blow. Like, I can't even talk about those stories, but like, he basically, he snorted, you know, it wasn't Hannah. He snorted up his nose and lost the place. And so this other company, people took it over, and they were pretty cool for a while. And then they sold it to this guy that kind of got smart and asked a bunch of us locals what to do with it. We did until we made it kind of successful. Like, it had never been open for breakfast. The Rathskeller always opened at 4 and closed at 2:30 or whatever. And camp was done. And he's like, dude, aren't you the kitchen cook guy? He's like, you want a job? I'm sure he's like, make me a breakfast schedule or make me a breakfast menu. And let's get breakfast in here. You know what I mean?
Sick.
And nothing against huckleberries. I love huckleberries, but like, so I did homemade biscuits and gravy. I had on the menu Mike's Mountain of Spuds. I'll never forget it. It was 2 potatoes, diced up, deep fried for $1.50, and it was 25 cents a topping.
Okay.
So you can still go in there and like, oh, come on, I'm gonna take care of you. But like, for $2 you can get
that'd
like
be great.
cheese and bacon on it or something.
I was driving through Govy today wanting breakfast and being like, there's no good
So
breakfast option in
was-
Govy right now.
It was.
It's Charlie's, but I didn't have time to stop.
I've never seen those 4 or 5 years. I have never seen any establishment that I've ever lived at, or any town, or any restaurant bar that had that kind of mentality for the locals, and how they understood that they needed their help. You know what I mean? Sure, in the summertime, that's when everybody makes their money.
Yeah.
But yet, in the summertime, that's when they would hire these people that didn't have any money to help them out, because Nebraska would get so overrun. Like, can we pick up the bottles? Can you mop the floor?
Right.
It was awesome. Like, it's where I met just about anybody and everybody that was so much involved with anything. I mean, like the ski patrol, whether you were Hood, Timberline, or Ski Bowl, were in there every night. You know what I mean? The fire department guys were in there every night. You know what I mean? Like, everybody was in there every night. So with that being said, like, maybe I'm getting off the subject here. Like with Ski Bowl, there was an old Vietnam veteran dude named Dennis, redheaded guy, whiskey drinking dude, but like, he'd have his flashbacks and shit, but I don't blame him. But he was the janitor of Ski Bowl. So on the weekends, he would, or during the week, like 11 o'clock till 6 in the morning, he would clean Ski Bowl, right? And he's like, dude, come on down, and like, when the bar closes, meet me at the main lodge at Ski Bowl at 3. We're like, all right, so we're all pickled. We go to, bring your snowboards. So we go down there, it's like dumping snow, knock on the thing, and he's like cooking chicken wings and all this stuff out of the cafeteria. and then the snowcat crewmer guys come in, and then we all eat and smoke, and then they're like, hey, will you take us to the top of the hill and let us ride? They're like, we'll take you out to Tom Dick Peak.
Like, yeah.
And we did that for like 2 winters until Hannah caught on, dude. Like,
so
free ball, like, dude, it was like all because of the Rathskeller,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know how many times we're like, just pickle, like, and it's snowing so good they had to gravel it that we could actually snowboard down the hill and cross the highway at like 3 in the morning without getting hit.
Yeah.
And snowboard up to the lodge and pound the door, knowing we're going to have chicken tenders or a cheeseburger. And the snowcat guys are going to drive us wherever we want to till the sun comes up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sick.
Like,
That's sick.
It was crazy.
Leif's there working the rope tow in the wintertime right now.
Yeah,
Are
I
you?
work
On
at
the rope
Ski
tow
Bowl right
crew,
now.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
great place to
They
be.
didn't have that back then, but I think it's really
Okay.
cool that they do, because you have the gym park.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's the heart and the soul of Govy.
Yeah,
still.
did you-
Like a lot of our crew, a lot of the people that are involved with Farm Fiend, they go up there for the night sessions all the time and ride that. And I'm sure it's more of a discounted price just for the rope tow. Or,
Yeah, we have a rope tow price. What was the parks looking like at Mount Hood in that era?
Well, they got
Besides summer camp, like in the winter, what was it? Was there anything?
Ski Bowl.
I saw that. There's like photos that look like a contest at Ski Bowl or something.
They had
you
the
tagged
first
in.
couple years, it's just like they tried over at Multipore, and I didn't even care because I just wanted to ride Tom Dick Peak.
You just want to ride powder, and steeps.
But like they tried, and then the last few years, on the Multipore side, it kind of got pretty good.
Okay.
Like to where you go, like that one chair that goes up straight up from the lodge. There's the 2 chairs here. It goes up.
Yep.
Those 2 back runs that come down to that chair had like one was more like a border cross run.
Okay.
And then one just had jumps and stuff
Yep,
and
yep,
rails.
which I imagine is how it is
and they're
still
all
right
lit
now.
up, dude.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep.
That's before they did
Red
it right
chair.
where they do it now. And so I actually had fun doing it.
Okay.
But and then Timberline, I never really went up there in the wintertime. To me that was like just strictly for the summer.
Okay. Yeah.
unless we got all totally pickled and like, let's go do the Alpine Trail.
Yeah.
Have one of our girlfriends drive us up there.
You guys were doing the Alpine in the Glade back then?
Yeah, like
okay.
3:30 in the morning, the bar closes with beer in our backpacks. So let's go do the Alpine
Locals
Trail.
are still doing that
Yeah,
these
you know what I
days,
mean?
right?
Like,
yeah.
Just comical, dude. Like, and then
That's so great.
Meadows, you know, I worked at Meadows a couple years, and the second year they had a decent park, but that's before before the park and the pipe got super fucking huge. They had like a dragon, but it wasn't like the 14 tranny dragon. You know, it was like, and I still thought it was big. You know what I mean? But I you know, like, to me, my whole theory was like, just go ride POW, have fun if we need be. But like, it started to get fun. But like at the first couple years, like, there was no money. Like, Skibo wasn't making the money that they're making now, even though Hannah has a lot of money. And same thing with Meadows. You know, like, there's not money in it. Snowboarding's booming, and we're making money off ticket sales, but we don't want to pay for all this cat time, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then as they start to realize, and same with snowboard camps, is they start to realize it's like, okay, this is more important. We needed to do this.
The more money you put in, the more you get
but
out of it.
But in the same sense, it's, you know, like, after being in that industry for 7 years, I started to kind of trip out on it. I'm like, dude, I don't, you know, like, more people are telling me what to do, and I'm seeing the way it's going, and it's like,
to kind of bring it
like,
all around.
You know, like, the money's in there, and they don't really care about that person or this person. They care about this. So everybody's like, oh, they're doing this. I'm like, they don't care about this. They're just trying to make money.
Yeah.
And that kind of shit tripped me out. You know, like, even though it had nothing to do with me, or I didn't have to go up there.
Yeah, you kind of watch.
I was like, this isn't
sold.
fun for me anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it got to the point where, like, when Vans bought that camp, I was like, this is my last year. I'm done.
Okay.
And I saved a bunch of money that year, and I bought a 40 Econoline 1985 white van, and I bailed back down to Santa Barbara, and I stayed down there for a good 15 years or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
I needed to get away from. And when I fell down, it hurt. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, I've got so many pins and bolts in my body, like Evel Knievel. You know, like, had my knee rebuilt twice, lost my spleen. You know, I've got, you know, pins and bolts everywhere, ankles. You know, like, I can tell you when it's going to rain before it rains. You know what I mean? Because it makes my bones feel weird. You know? Like, I just needed a break. But
what was it like the last couple years before they sold to Vans? What stirred that decision? Because that's an era of camp that I've never really heard of.
Well, the politics and the power grab, like.
Did it seem like it was like, just a money thing with the high-ups?
It's kind of like this. I guess egos and power can get to people. And all I want to do is be left alone. Let me drink my vodka, let me smoke my weed, and I'll make sure that 350 people eat food. But you step on my toes, or you step on my crew's toes, I'm going to fucking snap and I'm going to fire. And it was kind of one of those things where they were like, you can't say that to me. I'm like, well, you can't do that to me. Like, I don't step on your toes. Why are you stepping on mine? Like, feel free to come in here and cook for 350 people every day if you want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a lot. It's a lot of.
And then, you know, just there are a lot more people getting involved and stepping there. You know, like, too many cooks in the kitchen that don't even cook. That kind of thing.
Well, I was just curious because I'm like, well, that's interesting that there was, like, you know, camp started out super, like, grassroots, it seems like, and then you were there through the years where it seems, I'm not to put words in your mouth, but it seems like it grew and grew and grew and grew, and then by the time that they cashed out and sold it to Vans, it seems like snowboarding had grown, camp had grown, everything had grown. And had become,
you know, those were the best days of my life.
Really
and
mainstream.
you know, that maybe a couple years, you know, like, I had nothing against Vans buying it. I just knew that they were bringing in the corporate people from Huntington Beach to try to run numbers and tell us what to do.
Yeah, I'm curious how it changed when that happened.
You know, within the tight-knit family of High Cascade, I was already batting heads with people that had been there for years. So it was just a smart decision for me to just walk away.
It's sick that when I was reading up on it, and then according to their website, Vans decided that was, like, too much liability for them to own the camp. So then they turned around and sold it back.
4 years.
Yeah, they sold it back to the same people.
No, they sold it back to one of them.
To one of them.
And the funny thing was one guy, those two guys, not gonna say their names anymore. They hated each other by the end, right? And
That's what
they were
seemed
yin and yang,
like.
and he's like, one of them was like, we're gonna need to sell it. So, but the other guy got so bummed, like, you know, like he's older dude, you want to be like kind of like the high school dad kind of thing. Like, I think that he actually became like the tool and shed guy of the camp. He still came up there, even though he had millions of dollars. You know what I mean? And then through a couple other people, when Vance wanted to buy it, he put his money back into it with a couple other people and bought it back.
Yeah, and still involved.
Which I thought was, and like I said, by this time I'm in Santa Barbara running amok, and you know, like, don't even know what my name is. I'm living on the beach under a palm tree, but like I would still hear these things here and there.
Yeah.
Like Ingersoll bought it back. I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know, like.
Yeah.
Did you ever think about going back and working for camp once he bought it back, or
No,
you were just
no.
over it?
But I did reach out when I beat my prison sentence, and I really didn't know what my future was. I knew that he had bought it back, and I never had problems with either of those guys. A lot of times I diffuse the situation. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, what do you got? You know, like, and through getting a hold of him on Facebook or something, I was like, dude, you know, and I explained the situation. He's like, yeah, I'm like, I don't know what's up, but I want to try to get a transfer. Do you think you could help me get a job up there? I'll do anything. I need to show work that I could leave Medford. You know what I mean? I had I moved up to be with a girl and her kids, and then after the charges, I didn't know anybody, and I was told that I'm not allowed to see them anymore. You know what I mean? So and I'm stuck in this town on felony probation. You know what I mean? Like, so I did reach out to him, and he got back. He's like, yeah, I just kind of retired, but like I can shoot some numbers your way and give you a good thing. But,
Okay.
You know, and I was really excited about that. But then I realized right off the bat, they're like, dude, you're going nowhere until you earn like a certain amount of demerits.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But I did try to go back, and not necessarily, this time it wasn't to relive the glory days or party the way I did or try to do any of that. It was just like, I know I could have fun up there. I miss that place, and just give me any job. I don't care if I have to clean toilets. I just want to get out of Medford.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Well, what do you want to talk about? What the charges were? I know you told us off air, but I don't know if it pretty much.
So yeah, I absolutely, dude. Like, you know, I one thing these days is
We'll
like
have to dive into it. But I imagine anyone listening is like, wait, what the fuck was
I
that
think
about?
this is a great thing. You know, like this is what I did back in the day, but this is also what I did, and I made some mistakes, and I hold myself completely 100% accountable for it. But you know, I knew that I was struggling with some mental health issues, and I had PTSD, but I wasn't trying to deal with them yet. And then I hooked up with a girl that I dated in high school, and I've known since 6th grade, and she had married and had a couple kids and just got a divorce. And you know, as we grew, she became bipolar. Nothing against that. And I was an extreme alcoholic, you know, trying to deal with my PTSD. And I know now, this is the most important thing now, I know now that when two people that have character defects don't want to address their problems and want to blame the other person, it's going to be freaking toxic. You know what I mean? So
It's a recipe for disaster.
to this day, I held myself 100% accountable for what happened. It doesn't matter if she instigated it or not. I did what I did. We were having an episode. I was drunk. She sabotaged my dinner. I ended up throwing the hot frying pan at her, and I ended up going to jail. And it was a misdemeanor at the time, but then when I went back for court, they had changed it to a measure 11, which is a domestic violence charge, which is pretty gnarly in the state of Oregon. Like, you get no good time. You could be a born-again Christian or donate all your time in the cafeteria or the library. You're going to do your 57 months. And I sat in jail for 2 months in a max tank with people that were about ready to go to prison or people that just got out of prison and screwed up or already back in there. So, like, I learned the politics. Dude, I've been to jail in LA County. I've been to jail in Santa Barbara County. I've been to jail everywhere. And like, places I thought would be like especially LA. I was like, this is I'm shitting my pants, right? Nothing, dude. Like, Jackson was no joke. Like I had to fight for my food. Didn't matter if I win or not. It's like all this earn your respect. It's just like stupid. But when I got out, I just realized that the way I'm dealing with things isn't going to work. And I finally went to my probation officer and said I need help. And with that being said, they put me with mental health, and I got an evaluation. And I still see a psychiatrist, and I still see a therapist, even though I'm in shoots now. For the longest time, people would say, dude, what's up with you, dude? I think you need some help. I'm like, oh, fuck you, dude. I'm a man. I don't got no problems. No, fuck you. I'm a man, and I got a shitload of problems, dude. And I'm trying to figure them out. You know,
it's strong of you to share.
Do I have my good days and my bad days? Yeah. Do I catch myself back on some tendencies? Yeah. But I can always stop and reflect and go, okay, I've got the grounding tools that I know that I'm not going to go to jail again. I know the grounding tools that I'm not going to react that way anymore. You know what I mean? And I hold no animosity towards my ex-girlfriend. You know, like I hope she's doing good. You know, like I had to go through a really gnarly anger management 36-week program. I mean, it was gnarly, dude. They strip you down and stuff. But I was like, well, you know, I'm going to be honest. And, like, I learned so much out of that, dude. Like, that kind of drove me when I got to Bend, because as soon as I transferred to Bend, I didn't have to go see a therapist or a psychiatrist anymore. But I chose to, and I am. Unfortunately, because I'm kind of financially struggling these days, I'm just kind of doing them over the phone instead of going in person, and it's not the same. But as soon as I can, get to where I can drive in and see them in person, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
But I owe a lot. It's kind of like sometimes it's one of those things where it's bad things can turn things into a better thing. And it was a bad circumstance that really woke me up and turned me into a better thing. I mean, because of that, I'm willing to strive, and I still make mistakes every day, but I can claim those mistakes every day, and I can catch myself when I make those mistakes every day.
Fucking respect, dude. Thanks for sharing. Sorry to get deep and cry, but
dude, it's all about being truthful.
We got flaccid microphones today.
That's okay.
Keep falling over on us, but
I hate to say it. 8 years ago, I would have never said any of that stuff. I would have been back to I don't know what you guys are fucking talking about.
Yeah. Well, I only ask because it seems like you're comfortable sharing. It seems like you've gone through
you could ask me anything. I'll
huge
tell
growth
you.
cycle.
You know what I mean?
First time meeting you, but I could tell by the way you're saying. I'm like, let's.
And I think a lot of people that are gonna maybe watch this that knew me from camp or any of the stuff wouldn't be shocked with what I just said. They'd be like, oh, I didn't know that happened, but then they would think about it and go, well, yeah, I know why that happened. You know what I mean? Nothing that I never shared what my experiences was with my PTSD and stuff. So,
Well, it's hard to analyze your homies when you're all just fucking having a good time.
Well, there was a lot of, what a lot of people didn't know was because of some certain things that happened to me, I was the life of the party and this and that, but they didn't know that when I went home, I was scared to go to sleep. They didn't know a lot of the things. They didn't know, that I hid a lot of things. They didn't know that, there was times where extracurricular activities were fun, but then those extracurricular activities I thought were a necessity, and I had to hide that from them. You know what I mean? And then it turned toxic, and then I became physically dependent, and then I get in trouble, and people are like, what the fuck are you doing? But I'm not, I can't explain it if I don't want to tell them the truth. You know what I mean? So,
well, when you were down there in California, is that kind of when you fell into the music scene and got plugged in with some of the bands?
Well, the funny thing about that was RKL could.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of RKL until you sent me the link to it, and I was listening to it.
I worship that
band.
I worship that band since 1983, or I think that's when some of the EPs that they had putting out, and I was just
He sent me a video of him touring around with this band RKL.
Okay.
And
you were in the band, or you were managing it?
I love this band.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then I moved to Bend, and I had heard that the singer of this band's mom had bought a sheep ranch between Bend and Redmond. the year before, and like some of the people were like, yeah, he comes here every once in a while. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, you know, like, and then I had moved back for my second winter of being at snowboard camp, or not, I'm working at Mount Bachelor, and I was staying at my buddy's house, and he walks in the door, and I really don't know who he is, and then I remember he left, and then I was like, wow, is that Jason Sears? Like, yeah, it's Jason Sears. It's like, fuck, man. So he's back. They're like, yeah, he's staying at his mom's house. And then, like, you know, I forgot about it. And the next day I went into the Shoots Brewery. This is like before I worked there. And I'm sitting there, I order a beer, and then he sits down right next to me. He doesn't even remember that I was there. And I look, I'm like, dude, you're the singer RKL. And he just laughs. And he's like, yeah, I'm Jason. I'm, you know, the nicest guy on earth. I'm like, ultimate front man. God rest his soul. And we became best friends. We just partied, and then he's like, you know, at the end of this is before snowboard camp, so he's like, yeah, you know, snow sucks, dude, springtime, let's go down to Santa Barbara, let's rock out and shit. So I moved down to Santa Barbara and stayed with his dad. His dad owned this rad restaurant where all the celebrities would go to from Montecito, and we lived in the apartments above, and I just ended up like selling t-shirts for the band, and like, you know, just being the tag along, or as like his assistant or his roadie, and I did that for years, you know, like, and he became my best friend. And unfortunately, he passed away from his heroin addiction about 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago. And the band just decided to get back together. Not, you know, it's like, I don't think they're trying to write new music, but like, just the songs are so cool that they just want to play them, and the crowds love it. So they got these guys that are good singers to sing these songs. And like, and my company sponsored this tour. Me and my business partner sponsored this tour.
Okay,
you know what I mean? And not only was it magical that Farm Fiend got to sponsor the tour, but I got to hang out for 8 days with my favorite guys. That
yeah, it's sick. You can see you're on the sideline just stoked.
Yeah, just pickled off the free beer. Yeah. But half those guys, the drummer, the guitar player, and the bass player are also the guitar player. One of the guitar players, the bass player and the drummer of Lagwagon, which kind of came later, RKL, but RKL had broken up a million times, but like, you know, then they joined Lagwagon, and Lagwagon's their bread and butter. But like, you know, like I've been involved in that kind of punk scene since like 89, 90, because of Jason. No Effects worshipped RKL.
Okay.
I remember meeting those guys from No Effects when they completely sucked. They were terrible.
That's where I started picking it up.
Terrible.
Like, no
they
effects
absolutely were terrible, but they were festive to be around, dude.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I sold T-shirts for those guys, and like they'd always ask to open up for the RKL shows in California, and they'd let them, and they got better and better, and I'd help sell their shirts. And then like a lot of times, I got to the point when I lived up in government camp, anytime they were playing La Luna or the bands, I'd just show up. They know I was coming down, and I'd bring like a crap load of people, get a keg from the brew pub.
Yeah.
And they'd be all right, dude. Like you know, they're my friends.
Any good shows in government camp that you remember from back in the day?
I had RKL play the Ratskeller.
Okay.
I had. It's funny.
There's a video at Ski Bowl of a
Offspring.
The Offspring play.
But that Moro put that on.
Yeah, that's sick.
Moro, that was fun.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Like
that was the first summer I was at camp.
But
Moro put that on, and it was free.
That's so sick.
You know what I mean? It was like
it was right there where the toe is.
They didn't tell anybody
I think I might
until
have seen
that day. So like, you know, like there was probably like, you know, only 2,000 people there, but
That's
like
still insane.
You know, like it didn't go all over the state of Oregon, Washington, California.
Right.
They're playing for free. Like Moro just showed up and and this is like before social media and all that stuff.
Yep.
They used to do it's not Govy related, but out in Estacada they used to do like the Big Stink and the Little Stink, which is like you know big ass concerts out there.
I had RKL play the Ratskeller because like I would come back in my heyday of snowboarding, and then a couple times Jason rolled through and stayed with me with his old lady and his newborn, and I was like, we would be down at the Ratskeller. Like, I remember he went to Bend. He's like, yeah, I want to hang out with Pugh, and they're like, oh, he lives in government camp, and they came through, and like, they didn't know. So he's like, he saw a bunch of people drinking at the Oregon Trail Hut. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the OT hut. That's where everyone is.
Still a
people
local
are there
spot.
right now drinking.
And he's like, hey man, I'm looking for Mike Pugh, and he's all, they're like, oh man, if you want to see the Pugh Daddy, you just need to go down to the Ratskeller, dude. He's in there right now, I guarantee it. And so he goes, where's the Ratskeller? And he's like, right there. I was sitting at the bar. It was like meatball sandwich day or something. And it's like, so he had been here and he stayed with me for a little while because he was having problems with his mom and his family. And so I was like, you can stay with me. But I was like, this is, the band was broken up at the time. And I was like, dude, it'd be cool if the band gets back together. We could play this place. You know what I mean? And I used to do sound. I used to run the sound at the Ratskeller back in the day. So I had like a bunch of pretty good bands from Portland coming up to where like they loved it up here because there would only be 80, 50 or 80 people, but like it was way better than when they're playing.
They're all partying
because they're doing cartwheels and like people would come in on their pogo sticks and shit. And they're like, these guys are festive, like jump rope and like people peeing through the window. You know what I mean? Like they're like, this is awesome. So like. I mean, they would be begging to play the Ratskeller. I had Sweaty Nipples come and play. Big Portland band.
Do you know about Uncle Andy? Uncle Andy and the Fuck Around Gang, the band, like our theme song? Yeah.
That's
I feel like they carry that spirit still.
Don't they have some of that stuff in They're playing Charlie's?
Yeah, they play Charlie's. They play the Rat.
Yep.
I feel like we understand what you're talking about because we've gone and seen
like,
those
I was like, told the owners, like, give me $150, unlimited pitchers, and 2 pizzas for the bands. And the guy's like, I will make sure this place is packed and you'll make booze money. And he's like, okay, whatever. I don't think so. And then like, he actually gave me like $350 after the first night, because like, I started, and then with that being said, the band's got to take care of it. And even in Portland, it's like hit or miss for those guys. Like, we're guaranteed like the headlining gets $200 and, and the opening band gets $150 and they feed us pizza and beer. And these guys like run around with jump ropes and pogo sticks and do poo dollars and stuff. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's fucking great.
It was a good time. I mean, I don't want to say that I was like the self-appointed mayor of that town, but in a kind of the same sense, a lot of people kind of thought it was.
I mean, a lot of people hit us up saying that we needed to have you on as soon as we announced that we were doing the show. Like Todd Richards hit us up saying that we needed to have you on right away.
Now, so I've been talking with Todd, and it's so nice to talk to Todd. I haven't talked to him in about 25 years. Or 20-something years. I saw him in Ventura at a contest once. I wasn't doing very good, but still really happy to see me. And we started hitting each other up on Instagram, and then, I told him after we confirmed it, I messaged him, like, dude, I'm gonna do it, and he was so excited, dude.
Fuck yeah, that's sick.
Like so excited. So he wants me to tell a story, and so I'm gonna. For Todd Richards, this is for you. This one's for you. You want me to tell a story? I'm gonna say this. I am guilty as well, but camps would get done, and there'd be like a 3-day break, and then a new camp crew would show up. So the staff didn't have to be here, and a lot of the staff would bail to like Cannon Beach or camp out and surf. That was like
still does first in between's all surf trips.
I kind of got bummed because like I always had to stay to cook, but I was like, I'm not really a big surfer, but I wanted to learn them. That sounded fun, but like I had to stay. But in the same sense, it was cool because there wasn't that many people there. Whether it was breakfast, lunch, or dinner, people would show up. I'm like, what do you? Wait, like it was enough to where I could cook anybody whatever they want, right? But half the staff would leave, and we had back then, before they revenued a bunch of money, we had a bunch of used bands we bought. And then we would rent like the little short yellow buses. And then we had a huge full-size green yellow bus, right? A huge screen yellow bus. And there was I was one of the head managers, but I still didn't have keys to get into the key box where all the vans were, right? There's no reason to give me that key, right? But Joe Beebe, who ran the camp at the time, sorry, Joe, I'm not trying to, they all know, it's all good now, but he ran the camp for Calkins and Ingersoll. I mean, we were down at the Ratskeller, everybody's gone, and we were just getting freaking pickled. We just got paid, everything's there. Joe Beebe's paying for everything, and he's and we just decide, I mean, dude, this is still shady to me, but I think I can pretty much. We closed the bar, and Joe decided, let's go joyride some of the vans, right? So we went in, and he unlocked the box at the lodge and grabbed some van keys, and we get in this van, and we're just terrorizing Govy in it, and it runs out of gas. So we just leave it where it is, and he's like, oh, let's go get another one. So we get another van, and we driving that thing around, and if I'm correct, and I could be wrong, because I'm, like I said, dude, like, I don't know what I had ingested, and I know I drank a crap load of, and I think it got a flat tire. We left that one where it was. Or no, maybe we went the back road into Multipore, because there was this back road you could go in, because I don't know if you go over Multipore where the rides are, they can gate it and lock it. And I think we got a flat. I think that's what it was, but I could be wrong. All I know is so we go back.
Goes out.
We go back, and he decides to get the big green bus, right? It's like, let's go bring a tire and go fix that thing and bring it back, you know what I mean? Now, we can't take the big green bus through the little back trail to Multipore, which if you directly cross the street at the Upper by Summit, you think there's a dirt ride there that will take you to the back road of Multipore.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But that big full-size bus ain't going to go through there. So we all get in the bus, like, I'm not going to say names other than Joe Beebe, who's driving the thing, and he decides to start ramming that gate with that bus, right? And, like, seriously, like, I mean, I don't know why, like, I mean, there's people living on both sides, but you're kind of farther down there.
Yeah.
To where obviously we decided it wasn't, but we blew that radiator, like, wide open. So we decided to just drive it back and park her where it was. And, like, and then we all went home and stuff. And then the next morning, dude, there was, like, squad cars there. And I, like, look. And I like, woke up, like, what the fuck happened? You know what I mean? Like, oh, shit. And, there's squad cars there, and I just see the radiator and all the green goo that's coming out of it, and there's just this hole in it, and I'm like, oh, fuck, we are so fucked right now, dude. You know what I mean? So the owners are like, what's going on? You know, like this emergency meeting, right? Where Joe has to get up in front of all the remaining staff when they come back from the surf trips and stuff the night before the campers come. There's like, yeah, the owners are not too happy about this, and there's a like cash reward to if anybody knows anything. Does anybody know anything? He's like, come on, you know, like he's the dude that did it. You know what I mean?
Right? Yeah.
And I was just sitting there like, what the fuck? Sad thing is, it's like everybody trying to narc me off.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, Pugh did it. Pugh did it. I know it's Pugh. He's the stupidest, craziest dude to do it, dude. Like, and I didn't do it, dude. Like, with that being said, we didn't, like, they blew it off for whatever. And then 2 years later, BB quit working for the snowboard camp, and they decided to have right the week before we were doing pre-camp, have him come up there, and he's like, they're like, hey, BB's gonna come up here, we can all tell our stories and yada, yada, yada. And all he wants you to do, Pugh, is make buffalo wings like you did at the Deschutes Spear. I was like, okay. So we get up there, we start telling the stories, and then when he gets done, dude, like, he's like, he just looks at me, he's like, I gotta do it, dude. And I just bolted it. He just told the two owners, like, yeah, me and Pugh and a bunch of guys, we were the ones that
It was us. Yeah.
And they didn't care because by that time, like,
Yeah,
Statute of
good
limitations.
money. But
That's funny.
I could only see it from Todd's eyes.
Okay. How did Todd hear about it, or was he there at the camp at the time?
Well, he was there at the camp when all that stuff went down.
Okay.
But I think that he found out when Joe finally said it at his farewell party. You know what I mean? The cat's out. The cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, the word spread.
But like, dude, I was getting pissed because, like, I'm not gonna narc off anybody. Like, they're like, hey, dude, like, do you know anything? I'm like, dude, I knew every single person, even though I was in that bus, who was there, who was not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but
That's so good.
it's just like the fact that, like, I started hearing that everybody was like, they
Just blaming you.
I don't know if it was like $1,000 or something, but like people were like, you know, like, and they had no proof of it. Like, Pugh did it because they want the $1,000. Like,
Yeah.
I did some pretty stupid crap that no one else would do. But I sure was like, how the heck am I gonna have those keys? Like, if they really looked at it, the only people that have the access to those keys are the staff members that drive those vans that are out surfing or whatnot, and Joe Beebe. Like, how am I gonna?
I wonder
get those
how many
keys?
times those vans have gotten taken for joyrides, because you're jogging my memory, and I'm remembering a time when I was there. We had a van that just disappeared for like 3 sessions, and then we have no fucking idea. Greg Janke, who runs the camp right now, was running around. He couldn't find the camp van, and then the van just showed up at the end of one of the sessions in the Timberline parking lot. So someone definitely took it for a joyride for like 3 weeks.
I remember. Yeah, that shit happened. I remember.
We had another guy that took one to Idaho for an in-between with a keg in the back and all the staff members, and just did a kegger out to Idaho and back in the camp van.
I remember we nothing against this Christian crew. That there was I don't know what, I think they were from Idaho, but they were a pretty Christian crew, and they were the Diggers, and they ripped. They ripped, and they kind of bat heads with me, but I was cool about it. Like, you know, like, I'm going to play what I want to play. Like, a lot of people didn't know this, but, like, if you were there long enough, you realized if I was playing old 70s Kiss, it was Burger Night.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay,
if I was playing
themes
old Iron
Nice.
Maiden, it was Burrito
Some
Night.
themes
Like,
going.
people
Yeah.
knew, right?
Uh-huh.
But these guys would come in like, hey, man, can you play something else? This really bothers us. And I'm like, do you want to eat? You know, like, I mean, and I knew they were Christian because I kind of heard, like, I was like, no, dude, like, nothing's offensive. They're not sacrifice. I'm not playing Merciful Fate here. It's not satanic rock. You know what I mean? Like, deal with it, or go to Huckleberry's, get some pie. I don't care. But we had a bunch of vans too that we had bought, used vans. This is before, like, most of the vans now are brand new. That's High Cascade or whatever.
Stuff.
And we would paint them. And one of the vans is not one of the Digger Crew's vans. Someone painted a bunch of skulls on them, and it was pretty cool. It was like just, you know, flat black old mini, you know, short
the
bus.
Digger bus. Yeah, I think that they had the same
then
Digger bus
flat
forever.
black, and then it was just white, spooky little skeletons, and they weren't like gnarly air, but they were just. And they complained so hard about it, dude, to where, like, I took it upon myself with some of the other dudes, and we took that van, their Digger van, and just rainbow bright fucking flowers and sunflower seeds and shit. and then they complained about that, and actually the hierarchy is like, you know, don't ask for what you wish for. You know what I mean? It's like, deal with it, dude. We gave those guys paint. That's what
Take
they
your
painted.
soft
You know what
bus
I mean?
and go dig us
You know
a
what I
new
mean?
ditch.
So, like, you know, it was like, and I got nothing about, like, you know, I'm all about LBG, you know, like, you want to putt in the rough, I don't care. You know what I mean? But, like, you want to throw that stuff, you know, like, it's a joke, dude. Like, there was nothing satanic about that bus.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna push your buttons because it wasn't even my deal. It's like, can I be in charge of this one? Because I was who I was. And so it was like rainbow bright, like gay pride kind of colors, but it wasn't, not trying to state gay pride, with a bunch of sunflower seeds and stuff. And I don't think they were that bummed until the first day they took that thing up to the mountain. They were like, well, this is better than what I'm supposed to be. You know what I mean? But, like,
I like when it turned into, like, there's like a petrified dead rat hanging from the mirror of the Digger bus for a couple years. That's funny. One of the questions I had is, what was the scummiest building in Govy, in your opinion?
okay.
I could think of a couple quick answers from like recent, like the Steel House pops to mind. Steel House is pretty nasty.
The one with the elevator?
No, that one. I don't know about.
That's
the one
gone
with the
now.
elevator.
Okay. I'm going to say the scummiest house was the shack that my kitchen crew moved into after High Cascade session was done. The shack was where their lodge is now.
Okay.
Right? So we knew that at the end of that spring, they were going to bulldoze that thing and use just one corner of the concrete so they could get the permits, so it's an existing foundation, so they don't have to pay China's $1 million.
Gotcha.
And so, like, dude, we just didn't give a fuck, dude. Like, we literally, we drew all over the walls. We didn't pay the bills. Like, we had coolers outside.
The Summit's 2020.
We yanked down the walls and burned it in the wood stove to where, like, it was nothing but a shell. It was a 2-story house by the time the camp started that year. And they're like, well,
We got half the demo done for you, John.
you know, but, like, they were pissed, but they laughed. They're like, well, dude, you're gonna bulldoze it anyway, dude. Like, so, like, we basically just, instead of paying for power and bills, we just, like, that. And Scummy's house is a good one.
What was the Summits like for people living in the Summits at that time?
Okay. At first, the Summits weren't there, the new ones.
Yeah.
It was just that one. I don't know if it's still there. I didn't really pay attention. And that was pretty fucking gross.
Probably like the red one
like
that's there right now.
Like, it was right
Like
next
right on
to
the highway?
the Chevron right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's still there.
That's the original.
Still not.
I remember, I know that, like, a lot of the girls that were really clean that worked for Timberline that would love to go on the Rathskeller, obviously their rooms were pretty clean, or their girls' bathroom was pretty clean because they'd always hoop themselves up and they looked phenomenal, dude.
I think you're describing the current Govy situation, honestly.
They didn't want anything to do with me, but like, but I remember going in there a couple times and just the kitchen was the fucking gross. I mean, I thought our kitchen was bad. Mm-hmm. It was gross, so I could only imagine. You know, there's like 40 rooms in there and shit. It's like, but then I've also been into some of the, when they made the newer ones, the last couple of years I was there, that just like, I think there are a couple of them, they had to like completely redo the whole walls and shit because they
just gnarly.
Oh shit, I don't know.
Sorry.
I don't know what they did.
Our mics are messed
No, it's all good. But yeah.
So before we move on to the hood news section, I wanted to ask, what is Farm Fiend? Fill us in on Farm Fiend.
Okay, so when I moved to Santa Barbara, I met a guy named Russell Silva, who is one of my very best friends. Hello, Russell. And he worked at the skateboard shop. Like I said, I got sick of the industry. He remembers me in my little white van, and I met him down at the skateboard shop, and we became good friends. He got me a job at a bar where he was the bar manager, and I ended up bartending with him and stuff. And then we started growing cannabis together. And, you know, we worked for other people, and it just, you know, there's the high end of the totem pole, the low end of the totem pole. Low end of the totem pole does everything. High end doesn't do anything. They just have the money to do it, and then they take everything. And we kind of got sick of that, you know. And then I worked,
meaning in the cannabis industry.
Yeah, but then I had a, you know, my mental health was cracking, and I just bolted for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. We really, you know, like, he kept doing it, and then, you know, you know, we were still keeping in touch, and then after I, you know, got released and realized I, you know, like, I wasn't going to prison and stuff, we really started talking again, and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about buying this place up here, and I want to build a pool, and yada, 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 and he came up with the idea, and it just made perfect sense to us. It's like, you know, like, you work hard, you play hard. You know what I mean? That's the motto. You work hard, you play hard. And like, dude, I consider myself a hard worker, but like, Russ, like, is probably one of the hardest workers in my whole life I've ever seen. This guy just like is so neurotically works. Like, he like works. Sometimes it's like he doesn't need to do so much, but he does that much. I'd rather have someone do too much than too little. And that's just his mentality, dude. And it's like, it works really well, but he had the idea. He's like, listen, I got this idea. It's like, let's get this lifestyle cannabis brand going where we cater to the high action sports, the snowboarders, the skateboarders, the surfers, the Moto X, you know, the X Game people, you know, like mountain bikers and stuff. And like, let's bring into the music from the 80s and 90s punk and metal that we grew up on. And then we'll sell cannabis too. We'll kind of have this, like, so they have a sense of identity where it's not just like, you know, you go to a cannabis store and it's like, he could say this a lot better than I could, but like, it's just like, oh, what strand do you have? It's like, we want our shit to pop, dude. It's like Farm Fiend, dude. Like, this is what, like, you know, like, Russ says it like this. He's like, we want to be the metal militia at cannabis. We can't be the Red Bull at cannabis because that's all the corporate people. But we sure as hell could be the metal militia at cannabis. You know what I mean? So, you know, we've got Farm Fiend going, and we've got, you know, like.
So it's what? It's cannabis products? It's mostly what you guys are producing?
Okay, so we have Russ has a garden in Mendocino County, and I wish I could be. The guy is slaving away right now, dude. The guy is just working.
He's probably busy. It's summertime right now.
And you know, like, I should be there, but due to the financial struggles right now that like I'm dealing with, I can't be. But yet, with that being said, whether it sucks or not, he's like, okay, this is what I got to do. I'm gonna fucking do it, and he's doing it. Like I don't have to. Hey, how's things going? I know it's getting done. You know what I mean? Like it's just like getting done.
Yeah.
But you know, like, we have the cannabis, but we're like, we don't. You know, he's got, okay, so it's all legit, it's like Rain Trough Farms, yada yada yada. But we want to package it in Farm Feeds. We don't want to be like, you know, Rainbow Bright Farms or this farm or this farm. It's like Farm Feed. You know what I mean? It's like, it sticks. You know what I mean? It's like. And it's the lifestyle. So, like, you know, with that being said, you know, he had a great idea, and it's, you know, like, it's taken a while, but it's starting to take off, you know what I mean? And we've got some distributors. We're working with some distributors. So, within the next year or so,
Sick. Are you guys in any dispos around there?
Right now, we've got some distros, but I think it's just kind of covering the expenses right now. Mm-hmm. But we are going to, like, California's on lockdown. He's just a genius with it.
Sick.
But with that being said, like, there's,
Are you guys able to do stuff in Oregon?
Well, we can't, we have to get other product. We can't travel stuff over state lines or Washington. Mm-hmm. But that's where I come in because, like, all my resources and the people that I've been involved with, I'm reaching out, mm-hmm. and people are really backing it. Like it's so funny. Just like today, you guys did that, or wait, was it yesterday? Like, who can it be now? You know what I mean? And then it went into my picture, right? Mm-hmm. And I blast that thing on my Instagram, and like by the end of the day, there's like 575 people that seen it. You know what I mean? And Farm Fiend's got way more than that. You know what I mean? And like, anytime I got something good, I send it to him. Anything he's got good, I send it to him. So we're collaborating. But like, I've assembled a team of the people that believe in what we're doing. I mean, like Chauncey Sorensen. Have you guys heard of that guy? Mm-hmm. Okay, fucking rides the fucking doughboy and shit. Yeah. Fucking won Mount Baker Bank Slalom. He's on my team.
Yeah.
It's
sick.
like Forrest DeVore, Ashley Thornton out of Bachelor. Forrest and Ashley both placed. Forrest won the Dirksen Derby. Ashley got like second or third. I mean, I've got heavy hitters, dude, like that believe in our lifestyle, like, 'cause that's what they like to do. They work hard, they play hard.
No, it's sick.
I've got this kid Shane Landit that just rips on a skateboard and rips on a snowboard. He's like, like sometime he'll be competent. So I'm using.
You guys are supporting the industries that you're passionate about.
It's great, but the thing is like his vision, my connections, my financial backing, and it's like he's doing a lot more of the physical labor, mm-hmm. and I really want to be there, but due to the circumstances, I can't right now. But I know what to do. Like we can read each other's minds, but like he is freaking killing it. But in the same sense, like, because I'm stuck in my house, I work on my fence. I'm calling people. I've got like the Mervyn guys.
You're like the hype guy, the promoter, sort of to an extent, right?
Not to toot my horn, but I'm like the face.
Yeah.
And people know who I am, mm-hmm. and people see that I'm doing good these days. And the rumors might have been true at one time, but they're not now. But
anyone that listens to this knows you're crushing it now.
But with Russell's help and his guidance and us communicating all the time and with me working out and getting the pump from what he's saying, like I've got this family that's fucking winning contests, like Mount Baker Bank Slalom, Dirksen Derby.
Yeah.
Chauncey won the Big Wave Challenge. You know,
mm-hmm.
like, and I've got all these people that come out. Like you've seen the footage of the bowl sessions and stuff. They're all about Farm Fiend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, give us 2 more years and
Is Chauncey grooming at Timberline? He's groomer, right?
He's one of the head groomers.
Yeah, okay.
And he rides that freaking doughboy.
Right,
dude.
the big board.
It's just like...
That's sick.
Yeah.
Are you growing any in Oregon or no? Or just some personal?
I have it. But, I did the first year before we started Farm Fiend. I got some clones from somebody and I did it because I was just like, shit's a giggle.
Yeah,
I said, I don't even smoke that stuff anymore. Uh-huh. But my son sure as hell does. So I was like, I just kind of,
You guys are over there on the sunny
So just
east
some
side.
for some personal.
Yeah,
here
but
in
like,
Oregon. Okay.
I really enjoy doing that work.
One last question we had is silent rock. Do you believe in it?
Fuck silent rock, dude. I actually turned.
You don't believe in it?
I don't, dude. I fucking don't, dude.
That's 2 for 2.
Okay.
On recent guests.
No disrespect towards anybody that does. I just think that's fucking stupid. I'm not gonna say, I was gonna say other things, but I'm not gonna disrespect.
So were people doing it when you first started that camp? Has it been around that?
People used to get bummed. I had a kitchen van. Right? And if people wanted to go with me into town, like, dude, turn it down. I'm like, fuck you, dude. And they'd fucking freak out or try to go over and turn it down and shit.
Get you in an accident and stuff.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, no, dude. I was like, it got to the point like, Mike doesn't believe in silent rock. And like people were like, oh my, really, dude? Like,
different vibe in the band after that.
You really are a rebel.
It wasn't like, how could you do that? But like, people were like, so you don't turn down? I'm like, the fuck I don't, dude. I don't fucking do that shit. We walked down there one time We walked down there one time. We
Damn.
walked from government camp with like a case of beer in our backpacks.
That's fucking
and
gnarly.
ate mushrooms just to go up there and scream and yell.
Oh, I saw the rock. Yeah.
Because you could get there and you could walk up to the rock.
Uh-huh.
And we sat up there and just tripped out, screamed and yelled. And dude, and yelled at cars and shit. Like, dude, like... okay, to the camera, anybody that believes in silent rock, it's all good. But I don't, dude.
You didn't turn the music down today, huh?
Yeah, no. I
Oh,
turned it up,
okay.
you know
I
what
turned
mean?
it up. Yeah.
That's a good question, dude. That's a
great.
fucking good
That
question.
is
Thank
a-
you.
a
I've been having
classic.
fun asking that to people.
With that one, I'm sorry if was my answer, but
Yeah.
No,
Fuck silent
everyone's
rock,
entitled to
dude.
their opinion.
You got
know?
any other Mount Hood superstitions
What about the cat people?
or
Have you
non-superstitions?
heard of the cat people?
I haven't heard about the cat people.
I suppose there's cat people up Lolo Pass.
I know that someone, and I believe this one, like, someone's like, dude, if you get naked in a snowstorm, they can't fuck with you. And I used to get wasted in fucking government camp, get naked all the time. I'd go into the fucking, when people would be dicks in the Rathskeller, I would fucking go in the bath, take all my fucking clothes off, and go step back down at the fucking bar. Bartenders were cool with it, like, oh, here he goes again. You know what I mean? And, you know what I mean?
Gonna
Give me
have to
another
mop
drink,
tonight.
And then they'd be all, I'd turn around, they're like, can you do this? You know, like you're like, what's your deal, dude? You know what I mean? Oh my God! They're like, and everybody's just kind of like wiping the table down and shit. I would fucking walk up to the rats. I walk up to Huckleberry's. Please wait to be seated. It's like 1 a.m. and stand there naked in my snowboard boots. Getting chased out of there, dude. Like,
You'll have to tell us if it works still tonight at Charlie's.
yeah, dude. That's not gonna happen at 57 years old anymore, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
And that
great.
was actually talked about before I got here. Is there gonna be some nude sightings? I'm like,
Oh,
no.
okay.
Just bridge crossing. It's
funny.
People still do that. Everyone goes and moons off the overpass on
You know, and
New Year's.
You know, and I hate to say this one too. When we lived at Multipore that first year, we used to go up to the bridge where the highway was and drink and party.
Yeah.
And fucking pee on fucking convertibles when they went. Dude, I was like 20.
Yeah, I think people still do that.
Okay, and,
Maybe not. They might not be looking for
and
convertibles.
I remember there was a heavy crew up there, and we peed. Here was this like convertible Mustang, and you could see like the Barbie blonde on one side and the dude on the other, and everybody's like ready. And dude fucking comes up and flies up, and he's like this, you know, like roided dude. But then when we're like, oh, that's them, and there's like 30 of us, he bails and waits for like an hour. He doesn't want to go back over the other side. You know? We're just like, dude, like whatever.
That's great.
Not good.
Fucking good old Govy. Don't go changing. Don't go changing. All right, well, let's roll through into our hood news. Mike, thanks for fucking sharing. It's a pleasure.
It is a pleasure.
So hood news. What's been going on the mountain recently? Connor Kavanaugh has, I don't know how you say your last name, but dude did the board slide back rodeo recently, which is fucking insane.
Nice.
I don't know. Leif doesn't like the clip. He thinks it looks gross, but it's pretty nuts. It's definitely like circusy, but it's pretty fucking insane.
Yeah, you got
another
any?
beer there,
You got
Mike?
any takes on modern snowboarding? Do you still follow it or not too much?
I do, dude. And let's put it this way: it's like,
what do you like or not like?
It's fucking gnarly, dude.
Yeah.
Like, but it's the same sense as like, if you want to win, you got to be willing to break your fucking neck and die.
Yeah, that's
You
what
know what
this
I mean?
trick was.
And it's like,
Do you think that we're in trouble as far as like new youth participation in it? They built the brand new skate park here in Sandy, millions of dollars. It's Leif, me, and our 5 fucking friends that were skating the DIY happily.
Right.
There's no new kids
but
skating.
you know,
it.
it's like, I still liked it when it was like, you know, a fucking graceful fucking method 10 feet out.
Yeah.
And a hand plant or a fucking 540. It's like gymnastics now, dude. It's just like, it's cool what I'm seeing, but I don't even know what the fuck it is because it's the same thing. It's just a bunch of.
We need like Style Wars to come back.
Right. Hey, can I take a piss break?
Dude, for sure.
Yeah.
Go do your thing.
I'm gonna hold this in. But yeah, that's just like, we can go on that one.
You want another beer or anything, Lolo?
I like one more if you got it. Yeah, just put it like my trophies right here.
Fuck yeah. I like
No, this
that.
is awesome, guys. I'm like having so much fun.
Dude, we could go for hours.
Well, like I said, we could do another one at another time.
No,
or
definitely.
come on with
definitely.
someone else, maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe we'll have to come back or
I'd
come out
love
to
to
your
do it.
zone.
I would. Yeah, that too. We could do it out on my fucking property.
yeah.
Do one like with one of the riders or something would be sick.
You know, and it'd be nice to get Todd involved, dude.
I shot the message. I was like,
really
you know what?
call
If you
him
happen
out.
to be in town, and
I
schedule
swear to
lines
God,
up.
I think he's up there.
You think he
man.
just drove by?
I saw a text this morning. He's like, hey, he's packing his bag.
I saw that too. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, I'm back.
See, you guys are actually friends. I don't know the guy, so if I'm like that,
Dude,
it's just like I'm stalking somebody.
I'm
you know?
gonna tell you right now, like when I got that job at High Cascade Snowboard Camp, Todd still is the man as far as I'm concerned.
That's probably like in the
The guy has earned everything that he has done, like 8 or 9 or 12 million fucking gold medals in X Games half pipe back in when it first started. Now he's doing the commentating and whatnot, but like just true passion for what he does.
It's so inspiring,
and it's so great to see that he's back up here still. Wanted to be, to work at the Dole camps, and still killing it.
Yeah.
And to take that further, to get K2 to bring back the Morrow Dinosaur Todd Richards board.
it's sick.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Really
like
cool.
Robbie Morrow, like, is a really good friend of mine. Like once they sold out, he's like went down south and he's got like a crane construction company. But I grew up skating with Robbie. Like I was blown away when like I was like, you're making snowboards, and then like like early '90s, it was like Burton, Lib, and Morrow and Kemper. You know what I mean? So
It's so inspiring
and
to see.
Todd was their poster boy. You know what I mean? And well-deserved poster boy. So like it's a blessing that we talk quite a bit these days via Messenger on Instagram. Like, cause he's fucking Todd Richards, dude. Like, but it all goes back like, oh, that's fucking that festive drunk dude that cooked at the kitchen that like made me fucking laugh. You know what I mean? And I skated tons with the guy, so he knows like like I can hold it down, but like.
It's sick. I just like seeing anyone from your guys' generation that's like still skating, still in, and still pushing. It's like, you don't ever have to stop doing that. You can just keep doing it.
And the whole thing is like I know that I can't take the chance to like. There's certain things when I get back and I get my hernia fixed that like I know I can do, but is it really worth doing? Even if I pad up at 57 years old, I can still. There's so many things you can still do with skateboarding. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. All I need to do is have a fun session in that bowl and not get hurt.
Yeah, go clear your head for a second on your board.
And I designed that thing to like loosen your trucks and bend your knees. You don't even have to lift your trucks up to do a trick to have fun in that thing. Just woo.
Just carve grind all the corners and stuff.
And I want to build a ditch on there. I want to actually build like a skatable ditch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I want to do all these things that meant the world to me back in the day and put it on that property.
Who's your favorite person that's come and skated your bowl?
Red right now.
Okay.
Red,
cool.
Red. I mean, like there's
He built it and skated
so
it,
many.
right? Yeah.
There's so many. Well, he built it and then he didn't skate it because he had to bail to Montana right off the bat. But I don't know if you guys saw it. We had a memorial. We call it the Memorial Meltdown.
Yep.
We had a camping out there, and the cops didn't show up. Yes, you know what I mean. Great time, but like, they were building a park in Culver, which is right over.
Yeah, they just started a couple weeks ago, right?
And so those guys were coming over when they had time off or there wasn't a busy day. They were coming over and staying on my property, and then they would go back the next morning to work.
Dope.
And then Red was starting one in Lakeville, Lakeview, and I think it's like east of Klamath Falls, but way down there on the border.
Okay.
It's like Lakeview.
I think I've seen a little bit of media
It's
about
like
that.
a pretty gnarly bold. But like, I reached out to Danielle, his wife, like, hey, here's the flyer. And she's like, oh, we're planning this fishing trip on that weekend, blah, blah, blah. But then I think she just told Red when he was driving back, like, no, you need to go to Mike's. And go skate it, you know what I mean? So he's like, if you got a room for me, I'll come. I'm like, I kicked my kid out of his room. It's like, here you go. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and he came and skated, and it's like, Red's just. Have you guys ever seen that guy skate?
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like the most inconsistent, consistent style. It
looks like someone that's done construction their whole life. It's like stiff and just burly and just like isn't
so
fucking around.
Spontaneous.
Yeah.
It's never fluid. But it is fluid. You know, it's like, it's so sketchy, but it's smooth.
Right.
You know what
Kind
I
of
mean?
like Burnside.
It's kind of like
Sort of like the parks that they make.
He can go up there thinking he's going to do this, and something gets all weird, but he does this instead. You know what I mean? So for him to come out there, and then everybody's like, "Oh my God, Red's here!" You know, what I mean? Like he was like the
That's sick.
Flavor Flav of the party.
Yeah,
Like,
no, that's a very good
Dope.
official stamp.
You know what I mean? So,
Fucking respect.
You know, Klasky and just the crew from Central Oregon. My farm fiend up and coming rider Shane Landon.
Okay.
Landon. He's just so graceful, and it's just like, I wish at his age, I think he's 19 now, that I had the fluidity, but we didn't have that kind of shit back then. We had vert ramps and sketchy shit.
Is that who did like the
bangs.
back boneless I saw on there?
No, that was
back-
his friend Miles, but
That was sick.
he does the gnarly ollies from the deep to the shallow,
Okay.
and he does the 5-0 grind from deep to shallow in, and then he goes up like backside and pivots back truck on the hip of the shallow and goes in fakie. I'm like, dude, if like that doesn't work in your favor, you are so screwed. But he does it every time. So, but like, you know, every week it could be. It's like, it's not everybody's day every single time. So like, I'm just like.
It's sick that you have this pinnacle for everyone to
everybody's a
pull
winner
up to.
there.
Yeah.
Because everybody feeds.
Is
off
there
each
anyone
other.
you want to see come there and skate?
Lizzie Armanto.
Okay.
Lizzie Armanto, Jason Jesse.
Okay.
I'd like to see Bennett Harada, Eric Dressen. When I lived in Santa Barbara, Skip Emblem, Dogtown,
Sick.
Santa Monica. I kind of was on the flow of Santa Monica Airlines, so I got to know like the Dogtown guys pretty well. So I'm still pretty good friends with Bennett. We talk quite a bit. And I'm trying to get him and like Nahogo, some of the old schoolers.
Okay.
And Dressen there. I'm like, dude, come stay at my house. Dude, I'll barbecue.
Dude, you gotta get Walle over to come.
Walle,
Yeah.
like you guys got to get Walle.
Yeah.
You guys
Yeah.
got me digits, you know, like
We
send
should.
it my way. You know, like
We'll have to
I would love to
link you
get
guys
Walle.
up.
You know, like
Yeah.
Sick. Well, we're gonna have to.
Some
we're gonna
good
have to get there and
sessions
check
coming
it
in the
out.
future.
and a new bowl coming in there too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So what's the timeline on the new bowl?
We're trying for September, October. Like I said, right now, my finances are kind of depleted, but I had talked to my brother. Regardless of that, I had talked to my brother that I wanted to scrap covering the bowl right now and building a mini bowl. But with that being said, I've got people. Got Red designing it, and then we've got an excavator that we don't have to rent, and we can dig it and frame it and rebar it ourselves. And then I just have to
Then
hire.
they can pour.
And then they can pour, and like I don't care if I have to rent a house for 3 days, they can stay at my house. So instead of paying 62, 65 grand, I can pay like 17 or 20.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And they're totally down with that this time because
Cool.
I talked to Red's wife Danielle about it. She's like, oh, I didn't know that. I was like, well, like the less I spend, the more I can pour, and I got an acre of land. You know what I mean? So, but you know, the pictures it makes it the pictures it looks pretty mellow.
That's how it always is. It
You know,
always looks mellow, then you
but
go there and it's like gnarly.
It is mellow, but it's intimidating looking, right?
Okay.
Like I said, I wanted a swimming pool, like style fucking skate park, but I wanted not necessarily the swimming pool shallow end, and I sure as hell didn't want a really tight swimming pool deep end. But I didn't want
Mini ramp.
I didn't want a skate park bowl tranny and a skate park shallow either. So I kind of incorporated both. I did a 7/8 tranny with a half-foot vert in the deep end, and then the 7/8 reverses with a 7/8 over the waterfall, right? And I'm at 5.5 foot tranny cut off at 4 feet. So it's still drop inable and carvable that won't like, it's not to, if you're going with too much speed, you'll get spit out, but it's not when you drop it, you're going to fold either. So
Are there stairs in the shallow end?
no. This one I didn't. I might in another one, but like,
Yeah. Why put them in
my
there?
first one too is like, I want tile, dude. I want,
Yeah.
you know, there's something about that. Even if you don't grind
If you don't
it,
know, totally. That's how the bowl
you
and
know what I
sandy
mean?
is.
If you don't grind it and you get your wheels on it, it's the most gratifying. It's like your
Yep.
fucking winter time.
Yep.
It goes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and everybody says that too, because like, you know, I got all these beginners coming out there. They're like, they can get to the tile, get some pump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like
That's gonna be us.
Yep.
well, like you guys are welcome. You and your crew
Maybe.
are welcome out there
Maybe.
anytime.
We'll have
Maybe
catch
we'll
up
get
and
to
go.
the tile.
Let's get through the hood news and then put a bow on this thing, 'cause I imagine my missus is out in the car wanting to bail.
All right.
Hood news. What do we got? We had the board slide back rodeo. I thought it was nuts. Leif's been up there coaching. Leif, where's some notable camp highlights or campers? Anyone you want to give shout outs to from last couple sessions?
I don't know. Everyone's been killing it.
Yeah, if you think of any. bring it up.
Oh, there's that one guy. His name's Will, and he's been posting a clip every day. I don't know his last name, but I like the vision.
Nice.
I think he works park crew.
Grinding.
So yeah, it's hard to get a
Right.
clip every day,
Yeah,
There
I
was
imagine it is.
right?
Sean White was up there.
I did
was-
see
that
that.
was the
Did you
big
guys
news.
see him?
Our campers got.
Did you guys see him at all?
Oh yeah,
I did.
I
I've
saw
been
him on that
working.
huge mini bag thing or the inflatable.
I did see
bag.
that. Yeah,
All right.
that giant.
Here's my
airbag at
Sean
camp.
White story.
Okay, tell
was
me.
we were hitting the airbag, and he did a backflip, and it was like kind of sketchy. And then he came up to us and said, "Well, usually I do triples, so it was kind of weird just doing a single backflip."
Yeah.
He was cool about it. He was just joking around, but I thought that was pretty funny.
That's great.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. But in the same sense,
When you're
like,
just so
really,
used to
dude,
throwing
why
a
did-
triple?
Why don't you just throw the triple then?
Right?
You're
I don't know why he
you're
threw the
telling me
single.
that you can't do a single backflip, but you can do a triple.
He did one, but he was just like, it wasn't fluid.
I think what I saw is he did like. He went down and he did like the front flip, but he like did this like victory. And
Okay.
then- and they
Nice.
froze it or something, you know, so
Okay.
you get to see it or something.
Yeah.
Like it's an airbag, so you can do whatever.
Dude, the
you
new
freaking
the
want.
new bag looks insane.
Sean White's pretty cool though. I think he's calmed down a little
Okay.
bit. You
Is he
know.
Coming around.
So let me.
Yeah, you got any
okay,
Sean
can I-
White
can I-
stories?
Yes, I do.
Let's
yes,
hear
I
that.
do. So, Jesus, he must have been 7 or 8. I don't know what year this was. But he showed up at camp with his mom. And I could tell right off the bat, this is, okay, Sean White, if you're going to see this, I'm not trying to bash your mother.
Give us money.
Yeah.
If you see this, give us money.
But you know, he was an up and comer, and I think that I had seen some kind of footage, and this is way before like you could watch YouTube or fucking Instagram, or cell phones even had any of that stuff on them.
Sure.
Maybe in a video I saw some clips of it, but like he was a little kid, right? Mm-hmm. But he came up and to train, and his mom was like his manager, and like. He wasn't part of High Cascade snowboard camp. I don't think that he was part of Wendels, but like I remember I had to go into the office to get checks to run to Portland to get supplies, and his mom was sitting there playing like an old school game, you know, like
Game Boy game or
9-volt
something?
battery thing, and then in the
oh
office-
shit, like pre-Game Boy game. Yeah, okay.
something.
Yep.
And I had to go in and get the checks, and so his mom is just grilling one of the 2 girls that runs the account, and they're like, "Well, what can you offer, you know, us?" And they're like, "We're not going to offer you anything, dude. Like, well, how much time can he get on the hill? You know, like, I'm his manager, and it's Sean White, and I was just like, that poor kid, dude. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I thought, and you know, one part of me wanted to be outside, wait for her to walk out, and just be all, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like, it's like, okay. And then I saw, you know, a couple years later, I saw him. Okay, so I saw him skate the vert ramp like a day later, when it was right downtown where the Village store is, or the new store is now. And like, he was so tiny they had to thrust and put his arms on his knees, but he was
I remember
doing
those
airs a couple feet out of this thing, and
Yeah.
it wasn't these monstrosity X Games ramps now. It was like 9-foot train with 2 feet of vert. But dude, he was like
Little kid,
7
yeah.
or 8, dude,
Yeah.
fully padded. You know, it took him a while, could drop in, but like, so I skated with him a couple times, and he was just excited to be up there.
Yeah.
But his mom, on the other hand, just like. It kind of goes back to that thing where I said, it's like, yeah, let's conceive a kid. And
Yeah, you run into a
they're
lot of
gonna do
pageant
this, you know what I
parents
mean?
there.
Yeah. He
And
was one
then-
of those early
Yeah,
kids like that,
and,
maybe.
It worked in that circumstance.
But then, like, two years later, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it. Like, I was fucking watching TV, and I was watching MTV Cribs. That's right, people. I watched MTV Cribs. And it was Sean White, right?
Okay.
And he's like 15 or 16, and he's actually making some good money. and they're like, I think it's Oceanside they lived at, and they bought the house, or he bought the house, or his parents, being the beneficiary of his money, bought the house, and he lived like in the smallest room, and his parents had the master bedroom, and they don't do fucking shit, dude. You know what I mean? That's my take on it. I could be wrong, but I was like, I kind of got pissed because I remembered that little kid that probably didn't know, like, he just wants to skate and snowboard, and he knows he's good at it.
Just a little board rat.
When I skated with him on the vert ramp, like, he
just
never
a skater.
thought he was going to be like 2-time Olympic gold medalist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Be able to Red Bull to build him his own private park in Colorado where he has a foam pit so he can learn all these gnarly shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
He just wanted to be there.
Yeah.
But his mom, on the other hand, in my eyes, you know, was like, I got bitter, dude. Like, I think that was right around, I think I already left camp, but I was just like,
You probably aren't the only one.
You know, but...
Well, hopefully it comes full circle.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's kind of arced back into being that cool.
You know what?
We'll see.
You know, he got a lot of flack because the pressure and just, you know, arrogance, and then the money and the investments and the bling, and he gets caught up in that. But I think as he retired, he just wants to get back to the roots of having fun and skateboarding.
Yeah.
And the money that he's built, which is a lot of money, is being put in the right things, dude. Like,
which is good.
You know what I mean?
There's there's ways to be at the top and have all that and give it
now,
back.
He's having fucking fun.
And he's like interacting with the kids and stuff.
No, like, there's no responsibility because he's not going back to the Olympics. He's not fucking competing. He's got all the money in the world, but he wants to go and hang out and have fun.
Yeah. I think it's cool.
Mad props, Shaun White.
Yep. And you get a big ass airbag and
yeah, dude. Like, I want to do that victory. Like,
I want to hit it. I do want to hit the
dude,
airbag. It looks terrifying.
So
I saw
never hit
Brandon's
airbags.
clip.
If
it
that
looked
was
fun.
if that was snow, I've never hit anything that big in my life.
Yeah,
But I would
jump.
hit that because I know that I can land anywhere on my body and not hurt myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Would you hit it, Leif?
No.
Why not?
I don't know.
Hurt yourself?
I don't know. I just on principle.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it trucking.
Okay.
I'll hit it if you hit it.
I'll hit it. I will be your Flavor Flav, dude.
All right, on the way at Charlie's.
Okay.
All right, so what else do we have? Camp's in full effect. Shaun White's up there. There's the Govy garage sale. We missed it. Leif and I both were not there, but know who didn't miss it is our scum of the week. If you guys saw the clip, it looks like there was a raffle for a man thong that was crafted by Hood Mitts, and what's the homie's name? Half Glass Pinot.
Oh, Nathan Taylor?
Taylor.
Yeah, he was wearing the...
He won. It looks like he must have won the man thong.
The guy
in
front of
the cops.
He's skating in front of the cops.
So he does a kick.
Unfortunately,
I
saw that dirty ass man thong guy.
Yeah.
But I laughed at him because the cops didn't do anything.
Yeah, that's a pretty
great.
Govy moment.
The cops are rolling through Govy. He stomps a kickflip right in front of him, and the man thong flips him up, flips him off, rolls into the sunset. So because of that, we're saying you are.
Congratulations, you are the scum of the week.
Yeah, we actually have some merch for you, so I'll find it this week.
He gets a merch piece?
Merch. Yeah, I'll get you some merch.
Sick.
I'll get around to everyone else too.
Nate
I know
won.
everyone's
That's
some
awesome.
shit. Yeah,
Congratulations, Nate.
I didn't even have to decide this week. Everyone sent me the DM.
Yeah,
like,
I
yo,
did see you got tagged in that. That was pretty fitting.
quite a few.
It's a good
people.
one.
Thank you. What else? Solstice party went down. I did not go to Solstice
Well,
party.
okay, so what is the solstice party?
So it must.
I
be
heard
different,
about
so
it. I heard about it through my friends. Like, you want to go to the Mount Hood solstice party?
I went last year. It was pretty
Mount
fun.
Hood has a solstice
Everyone
party?
hikes
Yeah.
up to Illumination Rock on the
Oh,
solstice,
so
and
they did that
watch
last
the
year. And they
sunset.
party up there,
Yeah.
and they have a booter and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
There's one year
Yeah.
when Sean Fitzsimons did like the front dub 10 off the rock, which is fucking insane.
That's
like,
what
couple
it
years
is.
back.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for a few years now.
Yeah.
I saw the footage.
I think it's kind of blown out to where it's, dude, the photos of like
There's a lot of people that go, but
the parking lot was so full that everyone was parked on the road, like coming up to the main lot.
Yeah, my buddy that works with us, he's helping me out with Farm Fiend. Shred and Prosper is his little thing. He went up there last year and he got a bunch of good fun. So now I know what it is.
Yeah.
I thought it was like
I'm sure it's a good time.
I thought
It's
it was
probably
like
really
a
cool.
government camp and there'd be like rainbows
No,
and fucking pinatas and shit too.
A little bit.
But it was like, it was up, they go up on the mountain and they
All the way up there.
And they boot over the rock and all that.
have you ever hiked up to Illumination Rock or summited?
I've hiked to the top of the mountain.
You've summited? Okay.
Fuck yeah.
with a
Respect.
fucking case of beer. not me in general with the whole case of beer, but like there was like 6 of us, so we broke it up in our backpacks.
Yeah, and carried it up.
A crap load of weed, and we hiked up there. And I remember we were drinking beer, and the people that pay top dollar by the people that go up on the ropes with the crampons and all that crap. They're like, I don't know, like nothing against them, but like we got up to the top and we were just like, you know, in our broken down. This is like 1996, and like, you know, we just in our ghetto crap, and they've got like all these tourists from Portland or whatever. They got all the state of the art shit, and the guy, and like they paid giant million, and they're all on the ropes together. And they get up there with their granola bars and their like, you know, electrolytes, and there's like 6 dudes drinking beer, smoking pot at the top of the mountain. And I remember the head guy like tried to set an example of us. Is like, this is what's dangerous. You know what I mean? Like these guys, like, you know, like they're not gonna make it down the mountain. Like, you know, like, dude, like we got up here before you did, and we don't have crampons and shit, dude. You know what I mean? But it was
you should go to the illumination party. It's pretty fun.
That would be fun.
Well, it was the same day as Go Skate Day, and so I tried to go skate, but it was rainy.
Did anything happen on Mount Hood for Go Skate Day at all, or was that
We had plans, but it just rained.
Or at the DIY park, did they?
Nothing
have
happened
it
this
was
year.
super soggy.
I don't think so, but
it looked like something was going down in Bend. What's that? What park is that?
at Rock Ridge.
Oh,
Rock
dude,
Ridge,
yeah, dude, they had the Snake Run Rally.
Yeah, I saw
I
that.
think Michael Foosh did really good. Our last guest. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I think he got first or second, right?
Yep. Shout out
Do you
to
guys
Michael.
remember who won that one?
No. I didn't.
Dude,
I didn't catch
that
it.
course was pretty gnarly, dude.
Okay.
Like, it was fast. I haven't skated that park yet, but I did put the word out on my Instagram, like, who's coming out to the place?
I wonder if Casey
I got
Tratz
beer
went.
and barbecue.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
fun.
And, like, no one showed up, and I'm like, fuck, man, why isn't anybody showing up? And then I saw all the footage of the Snake Run Rally.
on Go Skate
And
Day,
then,
yeah.
And then Board House, they're a really cool crew, and the Tactics are all sponsored. They were giving out free hot dogs, and I'm like, but I got,
And there's
I
like
got
this-
tri-tip, dude. Like, you know what I mean?
The skate scene in there
You had
is
better
like there's a
food.
lot of skaters, but it's not that big to where it all probably converges like one bubble if there's one
Right.
central point.
But yeah, that's right. It was the Snake Run Rally, they call it.
But what else is going on? Gambler 500 is going down right now. I
What's
saw a
that?
bunch of them
What's
driving
that?
by. It's like this like event where everyone goes, and I think they start in Madras and drive through the woods and just
Like hot
old
rods and
beater-ass-
motorcycles and shit?
like whatever fucking car you want.
Okay,
Like
because coming-
beat up old like vans, SUVs, like whatever, and they just drive through the woods and collect all the trash.
Okay,
out
I've
of the
seen some of
woods.
those cars on the way
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, and they make them look all.
But I
piratey
also
and stuff.
saw a posse of motorcycles, like a gang, and then I saw a bunch of like Fast and Furious cars right up to the motorcycles up. But like,
I forgot to when it snowed, or like the solstice party happened, right? And then everyone camped out up there, and then it
did it snow on them?
Or everyone was going to camp out there, and then it started snowing up there, so I think everyone bailed. But Mac the Lorax still stayed up there, yeah, and
He didn't
he
freeze to
posted
death?
a video of him waking up the next morning,
see that.
just to like a blizzard, yeah, up on fucking Mount Hood, like on the top of it.
Wow.
So fucking respect. I
Wow.
don't know how he got down safely. Probably felt his way down the mountain. What else? I'm fading here. We got I think that does it for our hood news, but we do have some upcoming events. We have the Govy Game of Skate is going to be in town here July 14th, and we have the Red Bull Boarding Pass July 12th. So,
Radical.
I think there's
Fucking A,
also
boys.
the Hallow event, Snowboy.
oh yeah, that's right.
I think that's on the same day as the Game of Skate.
Oh okay.
So I think it's
What's
that
the
Monday.
Hallow?
thing.
So Snowboy Productions, they make the Holy Bowly.
Yeah, yeah,
They have an
Holy
event up at Timberline.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, it's that
Same kind
July
of thing, just not
14th.
Holy Moly.
Yeah, I think so.
Which I miss Holy Bully.
I think they still have Holy
I was
Bowly.
bummed I didn't get to go to the Timberline Holy Bowly.
Oh yeah,
You know what
they
I
had
mean?
it 2
Like,
years. They had it 2 years.
Yeah, I had responsibilities and I couldn't make it. But
Okay.
Sounds like a good.
Now they do them up in Canada. I'm pretty sure the last couple of years, Holy
Mm-hmm.
Bowly's been in Canada.
And then they had one in like New Mexico or something.
New Zealand, wasn't
Taos
it?
or something.
Maybe
different
Taos.
I think it was the last ones are in Sunshine Village in Canada.
Okay. But yeah, then we got the Red Bull contest that we're doing as a shop, which is fucking hilarious. But maybe we'll try and do good. We'll see. It's gonna be at Ed Benedict, and it's gonna be like a bunch of the shops around are able to go and do a little head-to-head contest. So
Nice.
root for us. I'm gonna try to survive it. Blake, are you gonna participate?
I think I'm just a cheerleader
Nice.
for the shop cheerleader.
Well, we look forward to
Maybe
you
film it.
cheerleading.
Maybe I'll film some clips.
But that's about what we got for the show today. Is there anything else you wanted to hit that we buzzed over? I know, dude, we could talk camp stories.
No,
For fucking days.
I could go for days on the
There's so
camp
many.
stories, but I think for the first one that
Yeah, we'll
we're
definitely have to have you
doing
back.
Yeah.
pretty good.
It's good having
and
you.
and I like the fact that, like, if you guys want to come and do one or bring a crew to my pad
Yeah.
and bring all this stuff, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's
All I
we'll
like
a
to
mobile
do
one.
is skate and barbecue.
Yeah.
And, like, this is cool.
I'm about
With
the
that
skate and
being
barbecue.
said, all I want to say is to anybody out there, follow Farm Fiend on Instagram, follow Mike Pugh 83 on Instagram. We're going places. You know?
Fuck yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, my pad is a dream that I want everybody to enjoy. You know what I mean? It's like, like growing up in Oregon, you like, I just dreamed about that stuff. I mean, I remember, like, we had to wait for car dealerships to close in the rain to skate the banks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I have the opportunity.
Now you got it
now I have
at
the
your
opportunity-
house,
Yeah, and
right?
it's like,
Yep, it'll be
you
covered
come
soon.
out there and help me out with some work, or just be respectful. And, like,
Oh, yeah.
you're like,
Sick.
it's
I
not.
feel more comfortable if I can come out there and like earn the
Yeah, but
the
the
ability to
same
be out
sense,
there. You
it's
know,
like, you
it's
know,
nice
like,
to come
to
out
me,
and
it's
show up
like-
too. But
I just want to give back, like, to a lot, and I want to give back, even though a lot of people haven't given to me, or in that aspect. But, like, I have the opportunity, and I know there's a lot of other people that think the same way. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. Well, I'm doing it.
Well,
You know what I
sick.
mean?
Way
And-
not
and
squander
I
the
want
position.
people to enjoy it. You know what I mean? And with that being said, there might be, like, in the future, I'll post work parties. Come out here, barbecue. I'll
Yeah.
supply the beer and barbecue. You know,
Fuck yeah.
Donovan could work on your car.
Yeah,
there you go.
rivers down the road. You know,
I'm volunteering him
But,
to
yeah, I think this is
I'll
awesome.
put it on my list.
some oil changes.
Well, thank you, Mike. Well, we'll roll into our thank yous. Thank you to Mike from BDK for allowing us to shoot in here. Thank you to Minty, Record Shop and Sandy. Roll in, grab you guys some skateboards and some good tunes. Shouts to Chutch. Shouts to DGS, Friday, Hood Girls. Shouts to Sandwich, Mount Hood Mobile, Lifted Northwest. Thank you for your sponsorship. And to everyone out there in the community and working camp, we appreciate all you do. And we'll see you guys out there. A Hood Certified Classic.
A Hood certified classic.
Yeah.